right to YouTube.
I would have to sort it.
But that's what it does.
Yeah, it'll go live right now. You can watch it right now.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff just in case.
Yeah.
You go look right then.
Yeah, just nobody are here.
Crash on there.
I know, I can't, I don't know, it's not my favorite. Apple computers.
Yeah,
Never.
crash course today. Yeah, I'm gonna remove it.
Never stuck with me.
I love when my kids stay in Windows based and
Oh,
I just get stuff so used to it, I switch to something else.
I'm like, Windows for life.
Committed.
I have to be. That's all we-
Everything in my house is Apple.
My house is Apple, but my work is Windows and I'm just like.
That might actually help to have the two separate, yeah.
Good evening and welcome to the special budget meeting workshop on April 8th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everybody to stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. Moving on to budget review. So we have about 8 budgets to talk about tonight. In the past, we've pretty much just gone one by one and down through the line items. I think that's pretty much what we will do, but I don't know if you want to give us a brief overview of things in general, or if you just want to hop into streetlights and go from there, or we should probably, we'll jump to
Yeah, do we?
Recreation.
rec and then we'll go, from, you know,
You
whether.
don't have to hang all night.
Yeah, you're second to last, so, yeah, we can probably bump you a little bit. I think Donnie's here for 3.
What's straight?
We'll get all our ugly out on him and we'll take the nice.
Yeah.
We'll start that way.
So would you wanna just do that, or I think maybe a brief overview, I guess, wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, so, we, have a, proposed budget for both the, town operations and, water and wastewater. And as everybody is aware, the, municipal side of things, is what we base the tax commitment on, and then the water and sewer budgets are what we base the rates on. So, we've got those developed. We're obviously in the middle of a transition from a 6-month fiscal year to a 12-month. So a lot of the comparisons that we are doing for this 12-month budget we're considering is a comparison back to the last 12-month budget. And then we also have obviously the reference of the 6-month budget that we're in transition. You know, and we're getting information as we go along to, you know, go into, you know, what the final budget looks like. You know, as we get closer to July 1st, when this new budget starts, we might get a little better handle on, you know, the revenue side of things. You know, we more information is always better, so we can always get more information on the cost side as we move through the process. We'll also get more information on the revenue side, and then we'll have a, you know, more clear picture when we're closer to the end of the month, I think, talking about how things tally up on the municipal side and on the school side as well. So
Okay, great. I guess just a quick thing before we start. What is the 2025 year-to-date number based on? Is it based on the March 31st date that it's been printed?
So
Or
when
do
I
we
did the
know that?
book, I don't know whether I did the update, there's a function when,
Okay.
you know, and so I don't know if it's gonna peg right to that, but if there's any question on the year to date, I do have like a year to date today that I can get you the number, so if you.
Okay,
So I
Yeah.
can't tell you, if there's anything you're zeroing in on a year to date, I can tell you
Okay.
as of today.
Okay.
yeah, I was just trying to, 'cause
Yeah,
obviously
me
March
too, I was wondering
31st
that.
was the halfway point,
And the
So I was trying
twenty
to project
twenty-five
that
budget
out.
is 12 months, right?
6.
Right here, this 2025 budget is 6 months.
Yeah, it's January 1 to June 30th.
6-month budget, yeah.
Yeah, and so,
So. Yeah, I was just trying to get that halfway point and I was trying to project it a little bit and making sure that it was the halfway point. In years past, that would be 6 months behind and we wouldn't really know what that number was, so. It's just a little bit helpful, but obviously if you have today's date.
Yep.
Numbers, that would be helpful if we have questions, but. Any other overview questions before we dive into rec or?
I just have one question.
Yep.
Why do we split expense and revenue? During our discussions, why wouldn't we look at each department? Expense and revenue at the same time? That way we have a clear budget of what the net is, or clear view of what the net is per, I was thinking
Yeah.
about it last night,
For
cause I'm
that
like,
department,
2-3 weeks from now, we're gonna start discussing revenue. And we're gonna be flipping back and looking at all our notes, instead of just being able to go,
Side by side.
yeah.
for the whole department.
I got a feeling some of this stuff tonight, sorry, Donnie, it's probably gonna be tabled anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
some of this is gonna require more discussion than what we have.
That's right.
So
Most likely, yeah.
I'm just wondering if like when we come back and do the final, it might be good to structure that where we can see. I don't,
and that's what, one of the reasons, I wanted to, give you a summary sheet with them side by side.
yeah,
Because
Absolutely.
the way, yeah, on the front pages of your book.
yeah, right here's
Looking at,
Yeah.
column 6.
Mhm.
Those are pretty much the way that our budget software labels them.
Mhm.
I did make a few adjustments only to flag certain things that do kind of stand out in terms of like the state, road assistance has specific requirements for that revenue. But I create that column so that there is a way to see revenues right up against the department they're attributed to. And so, I mean, we can flip back and forth if there's a specific revenue question. I mean, there's nothing probably preventing that, even though we do have a section of an agenda, you know, more
Yeah,
dedicated to
Yeah,
it.
that's,
This probably should have been weeks ago when I asked this question, but it didn't really spring to mind until I started flipping through the book last night. I'm like, okay, I caught myself going back to this.
I was doing the
then
same
flipping
exact
back to
thing.
Revenue.
Yeah.
I was just like, man, it would be awesome if we could have just set these up. And then maybe that's for
I
next
mean,
year,
that's,
but
it is, I mean, yes, line by line,
it
certainly
is.
another way to do it. And
Yeah, I was flipping
And
back to
helpful.
this, and this was extraordinarily helpful to have
Yeah.
it this way. It was. I just was wondering why our agendas weren't, if there was something that precluded us from doing.
To do like, you know, like public works expense revenue, you know, just.
That's tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight would only been like public works, and we do both expense and revenue and get it all out of the way. And then next week, streetlights, obviously there's no revenue on streetlights, but, yeah, I don't know. Just a thought.
I mean, this,
I agree, that's what I'm used to.
Yeah,
That's the way we see it at work, of course, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is miles ahead of what we've seen in the past, so I applaud you and thank you for that. This is good. Just for that discussion piece, I think maybe. But
we
anyway,
certainly have, yeah, and we do have the, you know, numbers to pop back to, but. It's certainly a different way we could do it going forward, but, anyway. All right, we have Jacob Marcoux here from the rec department, the rec director from the rec department. So if you guys wanna turn to page 32 of your budget books, we will discuss the rec department. Jacob, did you wanna talk about anything or? in general, overview, or we'll just go line by line, or?
Just go line by line, I mean, we really, the only adjustment, I think Jack and I talked about. We'll have a new pool staff this summer. One of the things that has been a gap in the past is the WSI certification. Which is water safety instructor. Really, if we're teaching swim lessons, they're supposed to have a WSI. We've been lucky that we've had a couple people by accident to kind of cover our butts, but giving a little bit of incentive to those kids that get the WSI, right? Like bump them up to $16 an hour. The $15.08 an hour we give them now is still like they could probably, I mean, they can make the same working at McDonald's pretty easy. Yeah. So it just give them a bump to 16.
And we did allow for that.
You did, yeah. And so I think that's really the only change that I can think of that I made to what we've done in the past.
Okay, and is that the roughly $20,000 increase from the 2024 actual to the 2026 proposed?
2024, actually, I don't have the
2024 actual is 61.5. But maybe you weren't fully staffed.
Phase two, so compared to the 2024, I think one additional thing we allowed for is full opening and closing. I think we've got $5,000 in there for that, that we put in for the 6-month budget.
Yeah.
Right, I just put it back in because we're gonna have another opening and closing in the next year. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, great, that's
That
awesome.
makes sense.
So there's 5,000 there. Building maintenance. Yeah, I mean, there's raises that go in there too. I'm not sure all the increases there that go from the.
Was the assistant director position filled last year?
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah,
we still got Emily.
we still have Emily, we also have a third, we have.
there's a third now.
Yeah,
That's probably the difference.
Yeah.
which is the
That's where the
part-time
difference in
There's pay
salary.
increases, there's a third, and then there's the WSI that he's mentioning.
that we bumps.
What's the
Okay.
third, that's the pool director?
That's the part-time recreation program support, which that position was in there last year, we just hadn't filled it.
Okay,
Okay,
so that's why the budget, so really the difference in the 2024 budget, the budget is just the pay increase.
Right,
But
so,
the difference in the actual is the fact that the program support wasn't filled.
Wasn't filled, right.
Okay,
right, that's what I'm trying to get.
yeah, that's what, yeah.
So
I was seeing, and I'm like, I'm not seeing where.
I circled that last night, and I was like,
Yeah, I didn't
Where'd that come
understand
from?
where that came from, so, no, that's great, I appreciate that explanation. Was there anything else highlighted that you? Was there anything from the council specifically? I guess I would say. Yeah, the maintenance opening and closing for, it's like, says $7,000.
Yeah.
Well,
So the annual CPO, which we pay Philbricks, right, that's the chemicals balance, that's 2,000 summer. That's him coming out and keeping the pool balance and checking the chemicals, we gotta have a CPO,
yeah,
check it legally.
okay,
So that's 2,000 there, and then the pool opening and closing, right, is what something we
this
discussed.
is what you just said,
Is what we just said,
$5,000.
5,000, I don't know if we've actually, that was kind of the back and forth that we made when we did this was it in the fall.
Yeah,
The 6 month is we like, let's put 5,000 so that Public Works, right, can do the opening and the closing and will essentially like
pay public
pay
works.
Public Works to do it.
does that show on a revenue line on Public Works?
I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah.
Sometimes that type of thing isn't flagged real clear, you know.
Okay, yeah.
It could go in a miscellaneous revenue line or something like that.
100%, no, that's why I was just wondering if that was being accounted for, if that was somewhere to make sure that
The
those
cost.
monies.
Right. Should be. If we're having them do it, then yeah,
Yeah, and I don't know if that's,
make a
do
note of that.
we need to have that represented on there, or is it?
It's not in there, it doesn't go in there, does it?
What?
It should,
Well, yeah, this is one of the things that we talked about this last fall, is that. You know, realistically, you look at Public Works. And you do building maintenance down at the library, you're doing the pool opening,
right,
it's all costing me money, but still, it isn't reflected in their budget, so. You'll see that in the library, if you did the same thing to some of the.
and that's good, it just needs to be able to show on an offsetting revenue line on your budget, right, so that's
Right,
just one of those things, yeah, no, it's
so to
great.
make note of
so
and
you
look
don't
for.
double dip or whatever.
allocate it to the appropriate county.
So that'd be,
Are we doing litigation?
on, contract services, 2505. You have $7,000 in there for the rec, so closing, opening and closing the school.
Revenue.
About 5,000 should be, revenue for public works.
Yeah, but I won't let you with that discussion.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Make note of that.
So I'm just gonna make a note on the public works revenue.
Long time coming.
Two publics. It needs to show a revenue on somewhere.
Okay.
Jack made a note of that, so I think he's
Oh,
got that.
yeah, I'm just gonna write on my book so that I don't.
Yeah.
Forget
Yeah,
it.
if we all can make a note, we might remember.
Sure.
Yeah, that was my. Okay, that's the same. 505, yeah, contract services. I guess this isn't just for you, but in general, maybe. I went through and I looked at all the telephone charges, all the different departments. And if you exclude the police department, there's like 10 grand, so, and they're a little different because they're all over the place in one key, but.
Yeah.
For the municipality as a whole, we pay over 14 grand in telephones.
It stood out to me in every department.
I thought that's kind of crazy, but I don't really know.
My phone is with the police department plan, so I don't actually know any of the details on it, I just know it's in there, sort of, it's in that pool of phones.
Or do we have, I mean, not everybody has cell phones. That the town's paying for.
Probably not everybody, but I'm assuming in that 14,000, it's their cell phone. Assuming.
So,
I just thought it was a large,
yeah,
a pretty large number, but
well,
I
especially.
don't know how many landlines and cell phones and.
But even still, we could probably look at like, what's it called, like ISOP, right? Internet over. Whatever you call that, I can't think of it.
Voice over IP.
Yeah, you know, or, yep, cause we could do that where it's tied into our internet package and basically save all landline phones, you basically.
Yeah.
We're actually doing that, so I gotta kind of drill into it. I have to think a lot of that 14 is gonna be cells. Yeah, but I can dig into that.
I was just, it was something that popped out in almost every line item, I was like,
Same
holy.
here, I was like, what?
Like the specific, like the library, I think was like 4 grand or something, just the telephones, I was like,
And
there's only 2 employees and how the hell
Is
is?
it just telephone or does it include like internet and
Well, that's-
everything?
That's telephone.
that's the other thing that though, is there could be some internet being
Uh,
paid.
Because it's an actual building
If it's not, if
versus.
the internet line wasn't created, it might be getting charged.
Sure,
I wonder, should we
It's just not-
explore the option of phone stipends as opposed to a completely separate cell phone? A lot of employers have gone that way, I don't
I mean,
know.
that's what I, yeah,
That's what I do too.
That's what
I do.
that's what they do.
I don't carry 2 phones, I carry 1 phone and it has like a sub pocket
VPN,
VPN for work. And you get a small stipend and you have 1 phone.
right,
But if the department is centrally located in a building, there's not really necessary for a librarian, and I mean, they have desks, phones at their desk, there's no need for that, so.
Right.
My guess is that
that's right,
is telephone and internet, because each of the
even still,
lines to dial in for the internet is gonna have its own phone line.
We should figure that out, do a little phone experiment.
even still, I mean, over 4 grand for internet and phone for the library is
Get fitting on here.
pretty wild. in my opinion.
Worthwhile to-
I just think
survey, like,
Instead of breaking it out all by departments, just put it in one big lump sum, municipality, telephone,
Trace the lines, see where they go, see if we
municipality,
need them.
internet. And
Probably
be done with it.
27 ex-employees still getting their phone paid for every month.
Who knows?
Well, they should
never
have a
know.
physical phone though, if the town issued actual
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah. Anyway, I wouldn't even break it down by the department, put telephones for the municipality,
Just like we did in the insurance and everything, right?
Right.
Yep.
it's like,
Yeah,
everybody shouldn't have a different. Anyway, that's a side note, not anything to do with rec, so I apologize.
A project, yeah,
But,
there's
yeah,
probably opportunity, and that should be a project.
yeah. There's probably some savings somewhere there, maybe. Does any other counselor have specific questions for the rec department?
I thought everything looked good, thank you for explaining the salaries.
Yeah,
Appreciate,
that was
appreciate your time and effort, thank you.
helpful. You have, like 4,200 in, general supplies. Right now that you haven't spent anything in, I assume that's gonna be chewed up in the, opening of the pool.
Oh, that's pool chemicals.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's most of that.
that's what I thought, that's why it's zero, and that's why it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% in a couple months. Yeah, that's all I had.
My rec's still working really well,
My rec is wonderful.
awesome,
Yeah,
easy on the user end too, so
Yeah.
glad you like it.
yeah.
It's
great.
easy for you to manage on your end.
It's great on my end, right? Yep, it's good, and it gives, yeah, it's a database of pretty much everybody who ever does anything.
Awesome.
Right, wise in town, so
That's
makes for communication and all that super easy.
Okay.
good. Any other counselors have questions for Jacob?
I have a question.
Go
For
ahead.
my rec, do we
Yes.
have a multi-year contract for that?
It's annual.
Is annual, is there any price break if you sign a multi-year contract? Cause it sounds like you've liked it from the start,
Yeah.
like, right, it was like an experiment and then it's worked really well. You're really happy with it, so
We can call and ask.
is it an option to do that to?
I've never asked, right? We can call and ask if there's some sort of multi-year.
Discount, you would sign up for the next
Like
5
a
years.
5-year contract or something like that, and do we, are we able to commit to a multi-year contract like that if it's like you're committing to future funds? We have that with like telephones and our website, so that wouldn't, the town website, so that wouldn't be an issue with it.
So,
Do it with.
you prepay, wow, are you prepaying for?
So, I mean,
The invoice usually comes here and I don't even touch it. Goes right to Tina. Tina processes it. I haven't seen the invoice in probably 2 or 3 years, right?
you ever seen it?
So you're paying one,
It's one annual fee. Yeah,
but it's a 3-year contract.
the annual.
No, we were asking if we could increase.
We
to a
wanted
3
to
or
go
5.
for like a 5-year.
So if there was like a
If there was
3-year,
cost saving.
Yeah, I just wanna know if, you know, if there's a way to exit the contract and pay
Yeah.
a small, maybe fee to
Right.
exit the contract versus having to pay the whole thing.
Yeah.
If we didn't wanna stick with it for whatever reason.
Worth looking into.
Worth the
I can call and check it out
Call,
and see what they say.
maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, it's easy.
All right. Would be excellent. Was there? Good question, any other questions, Heather? That was it, good. Pete, you're good? Good. Think we're good?
All right, well, thanks for the time, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
appreciate it,
you.
Monkey. Keep up the
Have a
good
good
work,
night. See you later.
appreciate it. Drive safe.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we can now go on to, we're good with rec. Let's go to the highway department, page 20.
Are you skipping streetlights for now?
Yeah, cause Donnie's here and I
Okay.
don't wanna bog him down with anything. But, yeah. Donnie, do you want to give a high level clip note version of anything particular? Or do you just wanna go down through and we'll ask you,
If we go line by line, I can.
you're good with that?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm good with that, yeah.
alrighty. So line, 0105, full-time employees. That has gone up to 243, 580. And that is small decrease from the budget, but increase from the actuals. Donnie, how have you been like getting all the, you know, the foreman, the 4 crew members? Obviously, a portion of your paid salary comes out of that?
Yeah, basically,
Have you been fully staffed?
we
No.
are not fully staffed. We hired one that was supposed to be full-time that is only drawing part-time right now for around 20 hours a week. He is in school, so he has 2 days that he's in school. I was hired full-time, and then a week later, he come in and said he had to go part-time because he's going to community college up to Bangor.
Yep.
This still includes, obviously the foreman and the 3 other workers. I think it's like a little over $10,000 comes out for me doing the public works. And the rest of it comes out of the transfer station budget. The little differences down in the part-time, we have a sexton. And obviously the cemetery pays for the sexton for 20 hours and the 20 hours tomorrow. And then rather than trying to find somebody part-time in the winter time, try to hire out that position, Jim has offered to do the plowing. Just to keep him on through the winter. He's taken on 2 part-time jobs, cleaning a school in Waterville, and he was running auto parts up here, Advanced Auto, and he said he'd just soon, if he could help and plow, he'd just soon stay here and do the sexton duties when he needed to do that and help us in the winter time, which I think is a win-win because it's gonna average 30 hours to no benefits. And he's willing to do it. He's done it before he's plowed sidewalks, and he's helped plow in the parking lot, so it helps fill that void.
What would Jim be doing as a sexton in the winter time?
He would actually be working for me on the public works.
Okay,
So
so it's
that's
not
what I would
really,
be-
so it's not, so the word sexton
Right,
is
just
just
right, that we just.
the
use
fact that it's Jim.
Right,
Right.
that cemetery will pay for him there, but we're gonna use him 40 hours for the other weeks that he's not working, when he's not doing anything in the winter time. And he's got the books done, everything's done, we're just gonna, and rather than just say you ain't gonna work, we're gonna put him to work, he's gonna be plowing and helping.
Alright, so you got Jim for 26 weeks of 40 hours,
Correct,
and then it says 20 hours in the summer. 40 hours, 18-week summer position.
yeah, and that is the one that we usually hire, usually try to find a high school kid or whatever, goes around and string trims around all of the guardrails and does all of our little projects, the parks, the trash.
Yeah.
All of the little things that we have to do.
So you mentioned the foreman and 3 crew members, but on here it says 4.
Well, actually, we're still paying for one that's out on medical and has been moved by the prior town manager, and my responsibility is to transfer. So he's there, but he's still getting paid out of the public works department.
He's on FMLA.
Well, no, I think I think he's got time on the books, he's taking sick time too, so.
But he's out on sick leave, yeah.
Does that go on a different thing altogether, or does it stay in this budget?
He's been
His
in my
position
budget.
would stay in the budget. Is he coming back? We don't know.
Well. Basically, I think what you're saying is you're shorthanded because that's like a reassignment, that position, that person has been assigned to.
He's been administratively reassigned to be directly supervised by me as transfer station, so he is not going back to the public works, but he's out of that budget because we have no room to move
Okay,
for an employee at the transfer station, so.
alright,
I think that's as far as we go.
Well,
Trying to figure it out.
yeah, no, that's,
Why can't, is there nobody at the transfer station that would be interested in going to public works?
He was filling a CDL position, so we really need that person on the road client.
Gotcha.
And there is not, I've been using Mike Avey, well, I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but he's been plowing Parker's route when he's not running the roll-off truck, I have been plowing.
Yes.
yeah, no, sir.
Just kind of doing like a department sharing thing, so if he's not busy, I've been sending him over there to fill that CDL position.
So you moved them because you need somebody available with the CDL in Public Works. But he's not really working at the transfer station because he's out on leave, so does that
Right,
leave
right.
him short-handed
Right.
in both spots?
I think so, overstaffed at the transfer station and understaffed at public
Well,
works.
no, because we just had one of our employees get done month or so ago, so I do have an open position, which Jim Allen has been filling in.
At transfer.
At the transfer station 3 days a week.
So you're still understaffed at work clock then? Because somebody's out,
Well,
financially,
Yes.
it's being paid, but our working hours is not being fulfilled at full time
correct, that would be.
to fill.
Yeah.
I would, yeah, so I guess my other the fact that you're short staffed at Public Works, Highway Department, are there jobs are there jobs you're not getting done? Or are you operating sufficiently and maybe that position that you're short staffed, you don't need anyway?
I think maybe part-time, because again, I am doing cost savings because I've had, when we're having snowstorms. Non-CDL people like, I'll use Alan, for example, myself, will come over, we can plow parking lots and help with sidewalks and do stuff for the shortage during those storm events.
Sure.
Which has been allowing us to stay up with what we need.
Are you able to continue that? Is that part of the plan going forward?
I think so, I think we can do, I mean, and again, we can look, if we don't need a full-time position, I don't think we should staff a full-time position and pay benefits on somebody that's not gonna be of us.
Right,
So
so
that's one thing that just came to mind too, just our benefits. If Jim is 40 hours,
Yeah.
he averages 32.1 hours across a year, he's full-time. Right?
It's only average 30. We got an average 30 through the year with the second, we figured that out, me and Jack.
Okay.
30 hours.
That's
He's not-
Yeah,
he's
it's
not-
gonna be 30.
He's gonna be, okay, he
He's not
never
getting
getting,
benefits because he's getting benefits to the VA.
but even with the plowing,
Yes, he's
Okay.
not, he's gonna average 30 hours
Okay.
a year, and again.
cause that's my concern, cause if they go over, if 32.1, then it's retro all the way back to the beginning of the year and.
And with that benefit, there's other opportunities there too.
Right.
For us with benefits, I do have employees that could actually. Get on to their spouse's insurance, and we could kill two birds with one stone, we could actually. Give them a little bit of money for a raise, and the town would save a bunch of money by having to do that.
Right.
That's something you could explore too, so.
So-
I think,
Sorry.
I was gonna say, when I was first going down through this was for 2024, the foreman and 5-member crew. And we weren't doing much, if anything, we weren't doing much with the part-time. And then hearing that, somebody you thought was gonna be full-time ended up being part-time. It made more sense to bring it from 5 to 4 and then just put in somebody that we pretty much know is gonna fill that part-time position, and that saves benefits on
Sure.
one person.
So this, but the top number is still a 5-person staff and it's not been,
It's 5 total, and last year it was 6 total, because it was foreman plus 5.
but it was,
For budget wise, but I don't think it ever got filled that way, it never filled up.
We originally were gonna fill it that way, and we just ended up that we had that we could only get part-time work, and we had no other choice, so.
right, so for 2024, you only had 5 full-time people. Even though you were budgeted for 6, you only had 5, right, roughly?
No, we had 6 at one time, because the one of them's been moved to the transfer.
Okay, well, my,
Small amount, not the whole year though.
but my point is the full-time actual for 2024 was 192.
right,
Correct.
And now you're going full-time of the same amount of people, and you're up to 244. It's a $50,000 increase. And you're maintaining the same amount of people
Correct.
I'm
that
gonna,
you had in 2024.
I'm gonna guess that you weren't at that level for 12 months, because if people are coming and going out of that department. you might
But we did
a few
have
months
times,
of
we did
that
have
level.
6, so we did have that crew, so we were paying for.
I would say your 6 is more represented at the end of 2023 actual, right? That's when you're gonna be at your 6th
Okay.
level.
Yep.
And so,
Exactly.
so if you're
Yes.
dropping down to your 4, that 191 accurately reflects that.
With part-time help.
Right, even considering you're going with your 3%, that's 197.
That's what I just calculated too.
But then increasing the overtime by $12,000 and part-time by.
Do you think that?
Yeah.
$4,000?
See, that, yeah, so that's where I kind of go off the rails is
Yeah.
you're increasing the full-time. In anticipation of being fully staffed. You're increasing the overtime. Because you're not sure you're gonna be fully staffed. And then you're saying you're gonna be fully part-time as well. So you're increasing everything and decreasing nothing.
And what I think,
But if you are fully staffed, your overtime should be less.
and what
If you're not fully staffed, your overtime would be more, but your full-time dollar amount would be less.
And what I think I heard is that the part-time is tucked into that full-time, so I would imagine there'd be no additional part-time. If I understand what he said correctly, right?
Yeah.
And there should be very little overtime with
Right,
part-time people.
For at least for our discussion tonight, moving forward, I would move that top number to 200. Cause I know what the proposal was for the 3%, right? Just
yeah,
assuming that we have a 3% in there.
yep,
Right, which is
I think
another-
that from 243 down to 200.
I agree.
And leave your part-time and your OT where it is now.
But doesn't that full-time include the tucked-in part-time? Why would we need another part-time?
So one
No.
part-time person.
No, they
summer
moved
work
that.
For trimming, right? That's
There's
the bottom
three
line.
full-timers there now with one part-timer. There's 3 full-timers, 1 part-timer that's in that payroll right now.
The top
And the
line.
part-time
And the
was
one
supposed to be a
full-timer
full-time.
that's getting paid from there is at the transfer station. So you're actually, that number reflects 3 full-timers, $10,000 or $11,000 for my stipend to do public works. And the full-timer that's not working there, that's getting paid from there, but we're working at the transfer station. That's the problem, there's 3 guys.
Second there.
Let's see.
So there's four full-time plus you, but then that leaves the wages for the foreman.
You say you're about 11,000, right? Give or take 10.
Yeah,
10
some I
and change.
check here.
10 and change, right?
Heather, there are
So-
4 positions, but only 3 people there.
Right, but the budget here says it's the foreman and 4 members, not the foreman included in the 4 members.
So,
So there should be 5 positions in that number, but then the question that I have, it says down at the bottom under part-time. 40 hours at 26 weeks, sexton 40 hours in the winter, 20 hours in the summer. Shouldn't the sexton hours be under the charge to the cemetery fund? Or the cemetery department, not
It is for,
here?
Okay.
it is for summertime work. They just say sexton because it's Jim.
Right, no,
It's not really a sexton.
so this 40 hours at 26 weeks is just the winter time portion of that then.
And it's not 40 hours, it's 30 hours.
Well, it averages out to 30. It's 40 in the winter.
Because he only works.
20 in the summer.
And
Okay,
remember that 20 hours in the summer is getting paid from the cemetery,
right.
That's
so it's
right.
not coming out of this.
So is he doing the mowing as well? Or is he just working 20 hours,
No.
just doing
He's part of
sexton
it.
stuff, not any mowing or trimming or anything? He's not a working sexton on the grounds part of things, he's just managing lots
That
and
is not true.
burials.
He is a mower,
He's a
He's
mom.
so just 20 hours a week then.
because
Cause we're
if you're
sucking.
gonna do a sexton for 20 hours a week, there's not that many burials that go on in a week that would constitute somebody working 20 hours.
Well, I know you said there was a lot of issues around records and stuff.
Well, we're
that needed to be
correct.
We're
fixed,
contracting
so-
that out.
So anyway,
In the
Jack is giving it
budget.
to me, the super, I get $11,139.43 as part of my stipend. The foreman, his base salary is $43,617. You've got another 40-hour position that makes $20.60, it's $42,000. Another one that makes $42,848. You have another employee that makes $44,000. And we have a vacant mechanic position, which was making $45,000 position, which was eliminated. So you got 1, 2, 3.
That vacant,
4.
sorry, vacant position was eliminated,
It was a mechanic. We-
That was.
so if we're not including it,
Yeah, so that right there would be what we flag right now as a vacant position. And so, we're flagging that position as vacant now, equipment operator. Wouldn't really be a mechanic primarily, but ideally that person would be someone that could do some PM on equipment and stuff. But that's currently not filled right now.
but we're gonna hire someone?
Well, that's the question.
So, yeah, I would say, cause I see further down, we haven't obviously gotten there, but the equipment maintenance line is unreal.
Mhm.
So that would, if we're saying we got a guy coming in to do PMs, you could almost pull their salary out of that equipment maintenance line. And we could either. Oh, yeah, look at your 2023 actuals.
Now with your age of equipment.
We just bought,
Not preventative, it's not just preventative.
yeah, we just bought 5 trucks in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and look what we've just
Yeah,
put
but
into
they're-
it.
On average, 20 years.
If we put $40,000 in each truck each year, burn the whole fleet and sub the whole thing out. I mean, that's crazy.
Hmm.
I mean, that's just.
Well,
That's crazy.
let's, hold on, let's just go back to the full-time position.
Yeah.
And
So the foreman's clear, the 3 full-time below that is one of those people at the transfer station.
One of the full-time positions that's getting paid out of my budget is at the train.
So the foreman and 2 full-time people working there.
No, there's 2 full-time and part-time.
Okay,
That's what we got down.
Right, you got a part-time.
And a part-timer, and then it's Jim, like the second part-time that makes that a full-time.
Correct.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying that.
Yeah.
It makes it a,
And as long as that keeps working, then that's okay.
I think, yes, it should be,
Okay.
because again, we're not. One of the things that we had talked about there too is, and that overtime, everybody gets shocked by that overtime. I manage that very well. I know, you guys could put $10,000 there for overtime, we got $20,000 on the budget, but if we have 14 snowstorms. In that next budget, and it's $50,000 I can't predict that. But I monitor it. I mean, I actually hear it sometimes because I'm sending people home and saying, this could be done tomorrow.
Mhm.
There's no dire emergency.
Mhm.
They're always worried about people complaining that something's not done, but I say, you know what, we can get up and we can come back and do that tomorrow. We don't need to be having people from 24, 25, 30 hours and.
No, overtime should never be a part of the
Dangerous.
plan, right, it's the exception.
But again, that overtime is,
so this
it's based on an average, so if you wanna. We got 30,000, I think we budgeted in 24. And we only used 23 of it.
On
So if you
your,
want to,
on your hours, there's only 6 hours a week charged out of your salary to Public Works. I know you spend more than 6 hours on Public Works, I can't imagine you don't. Is that just because budgetary wise, it works better to have more of your pay coming out of the other departments, or? Cause you're in building and grounds as well, and, transfer,
I don't bill anything out to building the ground.
You don't bill
nothing
buildings.
out to the safety director, I don't bill nothing.
I mean,
It's actually not recycling, I think.
is the rest of it in recycling and?
Yeah, it's great.
transportation?
Yeah,
Okay.
because they were.
So this is like a token amount though,
It is,
okay,
and then
For
basically it was one that decided with the last town manager that they're gonna put me on salary, so whether I work 50 or 94 hours a week. we pay them.
Mhm. For sure.
So it was one of those things that. You know, to help break it up, I guess. to do
Right.
that.
well, I mean, that's one thing that we should change anyway. Donnie's position should be its own line item, should be its own budget. It shouldn't be, oh, 10% here and 5% there, and
like administration.
just do it like we do the town manager. Or the town clerk for that, town clerks are on, so it should be public works director. And this parsing out here and there, it's
Would
confusing,
Public Works, would that work better to put it under the administration line?
or just put it like,
Cause he's basically administering those
Correct.
departments.
Right.
put it under whatever you'd like, but have it its own thing.
Yeah, cause it's all a budgetary grouping. It's on Public Works, there's a budgetary grouping, and then you have highway, cemetery, and transfer.
All rolls up.
It's all in
Yeah.
public works.
So it'd be easy just to add a piece at the beginning of that grouping, that would be,
Yeah,
admin.
Director.
Basically, department admin.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
admin director, boom.
Be much easier to digest.
Yeah, and then I actually know what Donnie makes, cause I have no idea. It's so convoluted.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, 'cause I guess my concern would
It's like-
be, like, if we ever find ourselves in a point where we need, a public works director that's just highway, a highway director. And then we need somebody at transfer station, maybe doing buildings, like if we come to a point where we have an employee that is not willing to be in 10 different departments and supervising that many people, then, you know, we have to do like a wholesale adjustment of 4 different budgets or 3 different budgets to like then make those adjustments.
I think that would be unlikely. There'd be such a small amount of time you would need from someone.
Or,
6 hours.
but that's what I'm saying, it's not an accurate amount of time that's
Oh.
reflected in there. It used to be,
It probably should just be public works director as a dome line item.
Right.
Oh, okay,
No matter where I go.
right.
And
Public Works anyway.
I'm
Yeah,
assuming
you gotta
you're-
manage all those people, that's.
the rate of pay is
Good job.
always the same regardless,
Right,
right?
he's
So,
salary.
so his hourly rate, so you do know what he makes right here, 35.70 per hour times 2,080 hours.
Right.
We just said you have no idea what it is.
I,
So,
when did you get this?
Right now,
Right,
so now I know.
yes, in the last 5 minutes, I know. All right. So where'd we land on full-time employees?
so what I see, and to Jay's point earlier, right? So in 2023, we were 225 for wages,
Right,
34 in overtime. So total spend of 260.
right,
We're looking to have a total spend tonight of 310.
yep,
So we're talking about a 20% increase in 2 years in salaries.
No.
well, there's 2 years of 3%
That doesn't sound
COLA.
right. There's something wrong.
And then there's
Something- we're- I'm missing
part-time.
something.
I'm looking at
Part-time
actuals.
line.
I'm looking at your actuals, 2023 actuals.
Yeah, 243.
Nope, you got 224,799. So
Okay.
220, call it 225 just for round numbers.
225 and
No, I'm looking
35.
at, I'm talking about this year's, I'm trying to figure out.
Oh,
I'm
yes,
trying to figure out,
310.
if it's part-time, it's just 40 hours.
Yeah, you got three,
You got 300, you got 244,
Yeah, something's not adding up.
34.
oh, they,
There's
That's
something
that's
wrong.
278 and 32, that's $310,000.
right,
It's because there's a $30,000-ish, not quite, increase in part-time.
Yeah,
Exactly, but if we're
And
gonna
you've
see
got,
that,
you're seeing that increase, you need to see a decrease somewhere.
we gotta see the decrease coming off
Well,
of
first of all, Jim's,
full-time line.
first of all, Jim's, I see what's going on, somehow we crossed it over from the cemetery or something. If Jim works 40 hours for 26 weeks. I mean, that part-time should be only 19,980. At what he makes for a rate of pay.
Yeah, but then you got, yeah, but
That's 32, so I don't, okay.
so 32 with your second part-timer for your 18, that makes sense, 32 is right.
In that,
Yeah,
18-week time.
Yeah, 13 is, 32 is right.
that's why, in my opinion, I thought a position from the full-time should be,
But I'm looking at 223, this one we were, or 2023, when we were fully staffed, quote unquote,
right,
Right,
right, we're a grand total spend of 260 compared to 310, it's a $50,000 delta, that's a 20% delta, that's crazy.
yeah.
That's crazy money.
is that something you guys can maybe
One,
iron out?
I think,
I'm just gonna try to add.
there's really two things to zero in on. One is on overtime. It really is kind of a roll of the dice in terms of how much overtime, because no one's guaranteed any overtime, and in a perfect world, they would never need to have any, but.
Right.
So that's a little bit of a what's the best case, worst case scenario we wanna budget for on overtime in
Right.
terms of storms and stuff. And then I think it's just a question of, you know, how many positions do we want besides the foreman? You know, do we want foreman plus? And remember, you know, you got one of these guys, this over the transfer station, so do we want the foreman plus 2 guys or foreman plus 3 guys? Full-time, knowing that you got basically one part-time guy a year, you know, in the wintertime. That will act like a 40-hour-a-week person.
So, one of the, like, to your point, when I'm looking at this, right? we didn't have a lot of snow as far as we didn't get those big 12, 14 inch storms, right? But we got a boatload of 3 to 7 inch storms, right? And when I look at overtime, when I look at the 2025 spend in overtime, right, we're $8,000 under budget so far. And we're pretty much out of the snow season.
If you add up what I've got here, the supervisor, the foreman, all those positions, even though the mechanic is vacant, I'm getting a total of 199,438. So I don't know, somehow, I don't know why it is not adding or what is going on here, but I just added up those positions. If you gotta get the paper for those positions right there.
So you got,
199,438 is what I got.
so that's what I was seeing too. So 47 and 45, that's gonna be 92. And 44 is 136, and 44 is 180. And 51 is 230, and 11 is 243. So your numbers add, right? Your 243 is right.
Yeah.
But that's,
Your 243 is correct.
okay.
Yeah, we don't need that
Exactly.
vacant position, it sounds like.
I just think that when I look at overtime, because I know that you have one, you're saying you have one guy in transfer, part-time, moved over.
Mhm.
You are borrowing somebody from either transfer or solid waste. And your 4 crew currently. You're still under overtime budget on the 2025 by a lot.
Oh, and most definitely.
You're under budget right now by 8,000 in public work in highway, and you're under budget by overtime 2,500, so you're under budget on overtime by over 10 grand, and that's running without that maintenance position. I think that's a position that at least for this year, that should be tabled. I don't see the justification on that maintenance position for this year.
Yeah, I agree.
And I just don't see it. It's one of those, if
It's
we
not,
have an employee in the position,
right,
we're not gonna go and try to cut somebody out of staffing, right? But if it's a vacant position and we've proven that with overtime, we're not gonna need it,
yeah,
I don't see where we can actually, in good conscience, fund that this year.
Well, you just said that you wanted more preventive maintenance done on the equipment because the equipment maintenance costs were so high.
well, we're not
And you
quite there
wanted to see
yet.
that managed better, so.
Yeah, but you
I
got,
don't know,
you still have the maintenance cost way high, right? So the maintenance cost is still
right,
85. I mean, that's trending 2023 or 2022, only 37,000, 2075, 96, and that's because we bought 3 trucks that we had to have a lot of work done on, the 96,000.
Right, and it should be one and
And
done
we just
type
rolled,
maintenance.
we just rolled the worst out of the fleet and put a 2018 in place, right? So that's gonna reduce your maintenance.
And at the same time, most of preventative maintenance is stuff that anybody can do.
Those
It's
are,
not, you don't need a full-time mechanic
you
to,
still need a body there to do it though, and
You got
you,
well, you got 4 people, 5 people. If you
but you don't,
count, if you count,
because you're
you
missing
got-
a person.
if your guy's part-time in the transfer station and he's limited, changing
Right.
oil is a pretty good gig for somebody with limited mobility or
whatever.
restrictions. I mean, doing a PM would be,
Yeah,
And Don
Point
is
is-
head of that department, he
Yeah.
agrees that people without,
what do you think?
I mean, you know, if you wanna take out the part-time, where we got here a labor at 10,864 for that 18 weeks, because if we got a part-timer anyway. So you eliminate that,
Yeah, but you don't have it in your summertime when you need it, and this is your summertime when you need it, right? Cause if you work Jim over 20 hours in the,
he has
In
another
summertime.
part-time that's year-round.
that's right,
He has a year-round part-time,
no.
yeah, the kid that's supposed to be full-time, that's in school.
yeah, that's, because
year-round
he's
part-time.
part-time, he's not actually drawing, he's actually. I don't even think his rate of pay is like $19 an hour.
This
but
doesn't
he's-
reflect
he's-
what's real, I
He's
know.
not, he's
So-
only filling a part-time slot out of one of them full.
He has 2 people making up a full,
If you're getting by with what you have now on staff, would you say that you would take one of the full, leave that mechanic position, whatever you wanna call it, in there? And have, instead of 4 full-time crew members plus the foreman, have the foreman plus 3 full-time and 1 part-time? Because that is what you actually have now, because you're still paying that person that's out as a full-time position. because they're still drawing because of the benefits that they have.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, that to be functional actually, is that they are operating short-handed, but at this point.
Well, I'm worried, this is what I'm worried about, okay? You have one guy that's out, you're not sure when he's coming back. You have one guy you hired full-time, but he's only able to work part-time because he's going to school. So you're down a body and a half. And then you have people call out in sick, or somebody gets injured or something like that, and you're down to your foreman and 2 people.
So that's I think that brings up the point, right, where this is where the tough conversation happens, right? You were hired for a full-time position.
Exactly.
You're either gonna fulfill the full-time position,
Oh,
or we're gonna offer your position,
no,
right? I mean, because that's where this kind of, to your point, right, you need the labor. And if you got somebody that accepted and then kind of said, sorry, not gonna do it. Well, now you're not fulfilling what I need.
well, this is what I was thinking, you got that 10,864 for the 18 hours that we
Yep.
got for that position, that can go.
Yep,
And I have no problem with that, because if people aren't got something to do, then obviously efficiency wise, I can send somebody to do that. But you got one of them full-time positions that's part-time, we're only getting part-time help out of it anyway. So if you had a foreman,
yep,
that foreman, and you've got Jim down here as part-time, and then he's gonna fill it.
That's only
I
in the
say go,
winter.
go.
may I make a suggestion on how I think I see something that could work?
Yeah.
You pull your mechanic out, so you save 50,000 there.
Yeah.
Okay, you take and you add 20,000 to your part-time. That gives you one part-timer, that's right now, he's year-round part-time. So that makes that position 25,000. Right, so you're adding 15,
Right,
add 15 to it, call it 25,000, that's a part-time position now, year-round part-time position.
And that's what that could
And
get.
then you reduce your overtime by 10,000, because now you have a year-round part-time position that can eat up some of your plowing, some of your lot plowing. And you take and you save that money out of your part-times, or your overtime, so now you drop your overtime down to 24,000. So we save $45,000 out of this budget by moving those numbers around. And he's got 4 full-timers, a year-round part-timer, a seasonal part-timer.
we'll make it work, I mean, that's.
I think
Isn't that
that gives you a
We're
lot
asking-
more staffing than what you have now. That still gives you another full body.
It does.
That gives you another full body, but it eliminates the position out of what we're doing, save us 45 grand.
Mhm.
And that's why I said, and it's the same thing, we were talking about 6 because of the,
Yep,
doing the other 2 routes too, so.
Absolutely.
Plowing. So we're doing the 3 routes, it still gives me an extra guy to do the plowing for the parking lot. Yeah,
and this gives you the opportunity to still hire one more full-time guy, and you literally, we're increasing your budget by $6,000.
Alright, say all of that.
All right, so we are eliminating,
Foreman,
yep,
days.
yep, we're gonna keep the 4 full-time positions,
This guy's going to 20, right?
including the foreman. So 4 and 3.
Okay, so that's 3 full-time
Yep,
positions.
we're eliminating the mechanic,
does.
so that's a savings of $47,000. Okay. You're gonna basically take,
Yeah, that's it.
say 10,000, or I don't know what it means, take 10,000 out of your overtime. And now you have a year-round part-time.
That part-time laborer is going 20 hours a week for 52 weeks instead of
52
40 for 18.
For 18,
Right. Yeah, I got you. I'm on board.
and then this way, we save
Then
all,
you save on the healthcare.
and you save on healthcare, you save on all of that, and that, we just shaved $47,000.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So,
Hope the kids stays.
practicality question is
But
that
part-time
summertime,
teacher,
part-time position, we usually hire a high school student or somebody young to do that, right?
Yeah.
Are you, because it's now gonna be a part-time position year round, are you going to move the employee that is going to school now, that you just hired for full-time into that position?
Yes.
Yep,
So how many hours has he been averaging?
He averages between 20 and 24, depending on what we are.
Okay, and that's,
And you know, that's. one of
so
the
that's
things-
gonna be his capacity, even when summertime comes and he doesn't have classes.
Right.
He is not gonna have the option of having full-time
That's
And-
right.
employment.
we'll help.
And so chances
Yep.
are you may lose that employee, have that an open spot, and the full-time be an open spot that he was in now.
Right, and the way I look at it, and the way I look at things, if we can find ways to save money, I'm gonna tell you right now that you're probably gonna lose part of the crew anyway, because.
Well, I just wanna make sure that we remember there's people behind these numbers.
We can't pay them with benefits that we're just not competitive. You know, we're not competitive, I'll be honest with you, some of them are.
Well, at that
I can
point,
tell you,
We're
I
gonna
was,
save money to help that down the road.
at that point, we have a bigger conversation, but
Correct.
that's not,
I tell you,
That's not this
I run a
budget.
business with similar personnel to what you do, right? And everybody's always willing to throw that money, and I get most of them back,
Mhm.
because they go over there and they're like, $3 an hour ain't worth it.
right,
I never see my family, and blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot to be said, for I understand your point, and we need to continue to work on that,
Oh,
but
yeah.
having these hard conversations and eliminating a position allows us to move those salaries up,
Yes.
right?
Correct, then that's was my feelings.
That's right.
If we save money with insurance, whatever we can do.
Yeah.
So we both benefit. The
That's right. So this-
themselves for budget wise and the employees, I think.
So you
that's-
said you're eliminating $45,000 out of the budget.
So this
47.
becomes a 40,
47.
so part-time becomes 42,665. Overtime becomes 24,515, right, for tonight's discussions, right? And then the top line is 243,580 minus 47,132. 243,580 minus 47,132 equals 196,448.
Where is that going?
Top line, full time.
Personnel wages.
196,448.
What did you have price for the part-time?
Part-time 42,665,
Okay.
and then overtime drops to 24,515, so you're basically taking 10
Take
out,
the 10 from overtime, put it in.
put the part-time, and that covers your part-time for the year.
so you're at
22
22,
just stays 24,515, we're just moving that first number. And that number might be a little skewed, but when we do our finalize, that'll be, Jack can put final numbers to that for
I'll
sure.
just plug it into.
Yeah.
so you're roughly
I
at
mean,
like
we're gonna be within a couple grand anyway,
266 overall.
so that's a $44,000 saving.
Yes,
Ish. Times all said and done.
okay. Now that we went through that, easy. I hope
That actually went easier than what I thought this was.
It did, that came together quickly.
all right, are there other questions? Any other questions from the council? I guess we can keep on going down.
I have a training question.
Yeah, right before that, I had a travel question, Donnie.
Yeah,
Did you get the police cruiser?
I did.
Are we utilizing that?
Yeah,
Is it gonna
I
get-
utilized it, because the garage is gonna use it, because we have,
Oh,
that's been broke down and.
is it broke down? The cruiser?
No, the cruiser's still there, so they've been using that to run for parts. and
Oh, I see.
Get people around, because the Chevy pickup has had issues, so.
Okay. And is the Chevy pickup the one that we're replacing?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
I hope
Okay.
so, I hope so anyway.
Well, yeah, potentially.
Thank God that's not on.
Potentially.
So we just have business on this dumped out quick.
Okay.
So what's included in travel, is that mileage?
That's mileage, most of that's with me in the winter time when I pick up, going up, checking roads, running, and I have to run for gas, but they're all the things, I'm running the van or.
Yeah,
So that's
So,
when you use your
and
personal
most of,
vehicle?
and most of the
Yeah.
time I use, like. Now I'll start using the cruiser, now that they've got the Chevy pickup, it's gonna
Okay.
last for.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll last a month or two until we can get the new truck in, if we can get one, and
Donnie, something you said earlier about employees having CDLs or not having CDLs.
just try.
Do you require all employees to have CDLs in the Public Works Department? If not,
No,
should we? And should we send them to training to get that licensing so that you have flexibility of who can drive what and do different jobs?
I don't think it benefits us to have all have CDLs, I think the majority of them should. We have our part-timer that's got a CDL, he's young, and honest, I would want to drive the wheelbarrow. So, just because they've got a CDL doesn't mean, again, we have our figures, because this is something I started on the safety program. That they have to be evaluated and stuff, but, you know, the schooling part of this is we need people who can operate them. When you got $100,000 piece of equipment, you don't want somebody out there banging around in it.
Oh, I'll second that. We have
I'll
farm
tell you,
employees that
it's-
can't back
And,
things up.
Unfortunately, you got this beautiful grader that we got to go over. Very few people that can actually, run that, and Jerry is one of probably, like, few around here that do it, so if he's one of those guys that use, we're in trouble. The guy who's worth his weight in gold, he can run an excavator better than, he's got 26 years experience. And he can go out and he can do 1,000 feet of ditching where I go out to other highway departments and no one go 500 feet. And that's all week, and he's doing it a day. So again, schooling and that training is important for that to do that, but no, I think to answer your question, not everyone has to be. senior. There's other things that can be done, brush cutting, stuff like that. I don't want everybody driving on fleet. We get old and I just didn't have experience.
You have another question on training? Good.
No, but, so am I missing something? On the 2026 for this budget period? Is the 922,760?
You looking at?
Oh, you went way down.
So all the way at the end of the page.
Oh, they're on the next page.
Yeah, we're not there yet, but yeah,
We're still on page 20.
yeah, that's,
So you're down at the bottom of 22.
Yeah.
yeah,
22, so it's 922,760 for this period,
for the 2025 and 26.
26.
so that's more than our whole budget for 2024.
Correct.
Actually.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah,
We're
Then you
getting,
gotta add the 248 from the previous. For this year, so you're talking a total of,
no,
what am I missing?
you're missing the fact, this is 2025, 26.
So the second column from the left.
so this is your 6-month budget.
Right, this is the 6 months, but this is the proposed for the next 6 months?
No.
No.
This is subtracted out
This
of
is the 12-month budget.
3 months spend of your 6-month budget.
so that's
Double.
coming out of this 920.
No, no,
They're totally separate.
totally separate.
That's coming out of the 505 that
This
you
is what
see to
your
the right.
budget is. This is what we spent out of that budget so far. This is so this ends as of June.
The
This
nice
rolls over, this starts July 1st.
and goes to the next
So
June
the
30th.
922 is gonna add to the 505.
No,
Well,
no,
no,
505's got nothing to it.
No,
They're
so
separate
this
years.
is- This is the 6-month tax bill that we're gonna get.
Yeah,
Then this is the 26 tax bill that we get.
but only for 6 months.
25,
For
This is
12
the-
months.
no, don't say 26.
So this is from July 1st.
25,
to
26,
June 30th of 2026. This is from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026, so it's a full 12-month budget.
Right,
Yeah, that's why it's really best to compare it over here on these 2 lines versus this line here. And Jack did, yeah,
yeah, the far right and far left
far
are
right and far left
More
are really the best.
Okay.
or
comparable.
actually, Yeah,
Or the first one to the left of the, yeah.
so really the budget increase is $102,000.
Okay.
And that's how they all work, each. So not just that bottom line, but all through here, that's kind of how it.
Gotcha.
Then, if you compare far left and far right, that's the most apples to apples. Kind of comparison.
Okay.
And if Trio would have let me shuffle these columns, I
Yeah.
would have. I called them and there's.
That's
Is
all
that what happened? I'm keep looking at this and I'm like.
Yeah, no, I wanted to shuffle these columns and
No.
Trio won't let you do it better.
That's all right.
Jack, you have this open on an Excel where you're making changes as you make changes to see, so you can see what the bottom line is gonna be at the end, or?
No, I'll just have to bring you an updated, I gotta bring you an updated summary sheet next time
Okay.
that will.
Cause I think last year we had it in an Excel sheet format that we were doing like changes as.
Oh,
we
Jacob
went
was doing it live,
to-
yes.
Yeah, he was doing it
Right.
live, so we could like keep an eye on the bottom
Yeah.
line and see, we were making all kinds of changes, but we made no progress at actually changing the final
That's
number.
right,
But
he was
then
doing it right here.
We're like, yeah, I'm doing great, and then it's like, no different.
I wonder if he
Well,
still has that maybe picture.
We shift.
It might be.
I have a question about uniforms, Donnie. So do we have a,
Yeah, you can take 2,000, you take $400 of that.
My question was, do we have a dollar amount,
We're good.
do we have a dollar amount per employee for
That's
you?
400
400 per employee for the
per
year?
employee, yeah, for
Okay.
the whole weather year.
Thank you.
Take whatever one employee gets for all of these line items and
So
remove it.
that's part-time and full-time, everybody gets.
So uniforms is down to $2,000.
Only
Okay,
full-time,
Only full-time,
part-time gets an half rate.
a half rate, so
okay, that makes sense.
$2,000, okay,
So it went, initially it was 250, I think like 3 years ago, we changed it to 400 because we
Maybe
couldn't
that
get
changed
the
through.
boots for 300.
Yeah.
Anyways,
We're getting boots, the one that we use is, some of them use, the guy who uses it, Super Shoe or whatever.
Yeah, can we get a deal with Rennie's?
They can go to Rennie's too,
Can we
yeah.
get a deal, I mean, can we,
Well, we actually get if we go up there, we get a better rate for boots, well, for a car too. A lot of the guys want the car, some guys don't, some guys actually use the, Walmart kind of, go over there, get 50 t-shirts, because they get 50 t-shirts. Like the guys at the transfer station, they get probably, they get to the point after a week or so, they ain't no good, and they throw them away, so.
so what? Like a UniFirst or a, have we looked at that?
For $400, it was
$400.
each employee,
For
$275.
the jacket, $35
paycheck.
at UniFirst with a commercial account, that's what I was wondering, I mean, that's,
have
You-
you have actual uniform service?
yeah. Like a jacket, something that gets cleaned and repaired and blah, blah, blah each year. Pair of coveralls, a jacket, a sweatshirt, I mean, that would be, well, you'd be your $150 and then your boot allowance of $250, and that's your $400, and you're still upside right, I just was wondering, had we
We
looked
looked
at
at
that?
it, and it was actually $270 more than the 400. To do it that way, so it was like, it was something like.
But that must have been full.
$4 a week, but they laundered them and did all of that stuff.
Yeah.
They would
I'd
repair
love to
them.
see coveralls available for the employees at the transfer station, so that they don't have to drive home in dirty clothes and stuff.
So the reason that that's that way is because they actually double up your order. If you're doing laundry service, if you have one jacket, you have two jackets.
Mhm.
One while it's being laundered, one that you're wearing, that's why.
Yeah.
So if you do without the laundry service, you can get them with an annual repair or replace thing, and you can usually save some money, that's why I was just wondering, but
Yeah,
it gives you guys cleaner uniform.
Donnie, on 1005 is your general.
Yep.
The budgeting's almost 74,000. You look back, we've never spent. Man, we did it in 2023, I guess we did, but we're contracting out salt, sand for the county roads.
for all the roads, yeah. No, they use ours,
They use yours?
they use ours,
Is that how that contract was written?
yes, sir.
That they use our salt and
I
sand?
thought they supplied everything,
Not
real.
The one when they plowed the whole roads, I think it was TW, was 680, and we supplied the same and salt. So that's why. I
That was
think-
580, but yeah,
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 whatever it was.
right.
But some of it's because we were supplying the sand and salt.
Is it cheaper because we're supplying the sand and salt?
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
because we
Yeah,
would buy it
so-
in larger quantities than.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
That's-
paying $110.
I didn't-
Salt, we're paying 80, so.
Yeah.
I expected a decrease because I thought their contract included sand and salt, so I was
No,
expecting,
that is not true.
Okay,
It's
If
a
there was,
service,
it'd be
there's
one heck of
something
a
that's
deal.
standing behind the plows.
I know,
They have
yeah,
it
I
on-
know that,
That was.
I expected sand and salt in general to go down.
No, and that's why I think that we've got, with the contractual, it was so cheap, is because if you didn't, it was gonna be pricey.
How does our salt and sand pile look after this mild winter that we've had?
The last 200s,
We actually, if you go look at the sand pilots, we've used more this year because of the slippery roads than we have in the past. But we still got a pretty good stockpile because we've done it years ahead, the last 3 years,
Check the end of it.
how many years supply do we have?
stockpile,
No, how many more years do you think we're gonna get out of
what's
the
on there?
pit that we're,
Seth, he told me 7 years.
that's for salt, right?
No, it's for sand.
Sand.
And that's the salt impregnated sand, he's got 7 years.
Yeah,
Cause where we were going was in, Anson, right?
that's still with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was like, I thought 2 or 3 years is what I had heard.
No, they figured that, unless obviously other people go to spec grade sand, then that could happen, another town would say, we're gonna do this, we're gonna cut back on our salt, and then they buy, 12 or 15,000 yards. That, yeah, that's all based on usage, I guess, but he told me 5 to 7 years.
How many yards of salt is this compared to yards of sand? What are you looking at here?
We did 10. 30 yards, so it's 30, they're 40-ton loads of salt, so we buy it by the ton.
Okay,
A ton of salt is, roughly 1.1 yards.
okay. So you got 300 yards of salt, basically,
Yeah,
and how much sand here? Sand,
That was 1,800 yards, I budgeted for 1,800 yards, we normally did, 2,500 in the past, and we run out, so we had a couple of years, we had good years, and we did the 2,500, and then.
Are you still talking about sand or salt?
Sand.
well,
Sand.
so what's your spread rate on salt versus sand? Like, how much more liberal is the sand put down than the salt? I'm asking because I'm wondering
Salt.
how much we start to transition to salt,
Salt,
because how much we spend to clean up every year.
again, the state obviously has, we have one truck that can beat it, the salt, but,
You said,
sand, you're doing about 450 pounds or
half,
3/4 of a yard per mile, where the state puts out 40 pounds of salt per mile. So salt, you use way less.
so it's 6, your conversion, just looking at that quickly, is like 8 to 1, so if you're putting out less than 1/8 of the salt, which you would be, you'd actually save money going to salt.
If we meter it right, we get the meters on the truck, yeah, and I've been talking about that for spring maintenance.
And that-
It's catch basins and stuff, because you're putting sand up, doing salt priority, at least on the main road.
And how much would that save us in cleanup in the spring? Well, I know Joe Sally would say that you wait until you sand and then you sweep it. Then you go
Yeah.
sand again, just to,
Just so they come up sweep it again.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
I can't remember.
Sorry, I just put him on blast on YouTube. Whatever. He'll get, he'll
Say
get,
it again,
he'll get me later.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe Sally.
You got $16,000 for your sweeping. So you're talking,
Oh,
catch it
yeah.
out, and then you gotta also suck out your catch basin, about 16 to 20,000, so. Yeah, and we've talked about it in the past, doing some salt priority on, at least the main roads with your catch basins and stuff. You use it way less, but it also saves you the cleanup in the summertime.
Is it as effective as?
More,
Hmm,
I think more effective, right?
Yeah, as long as you can, it's just like anything else, you can over apply it too, and I've talked about maybe just doing a test pilot project at some point in time, so we can actually get real numbers and figure it out.
Cause sand creates a nightmare.
Especially for the in-town infrastructure.
Ugh, creates an.
And we don't use, obviously, I got straight sand, I don't use. Cause that was a past practice, you're putting salt on your dirt roads.
Yeah,
Have you ever, if you all look at the condition of our dirt roads since Gary's been building them and we've stopped putting salt on the dirt roads, you'll see 100% improvement, because that's what gets them all muddy and.
Well, exactly.
Out of the ground, it makes a mess.
boy, I just think, I don't know if we're ready to do that now, but I just think that
But
would
somebody
save
should
us a
explore
ton of
anything.
money.
if we did salt all around town and no
on
sand,
in-town roads,
Just on-
and then out of town roads.
How we leave your infrastructure, is your catch basin, your sewer manholes, that stuff. And
Right.
I bet you can cut. I bet you cut 25,000 out of your,
Mm.
between your cleanup. Between your in-town cleanup, the maintenance that's done on the water runoff system, right, cause your sand plugs that up like.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy numbers. And then your culverts, your in-town culverts get plugged full of silt and sand.
All right.
that's a good idea too.
I'm just
So-
wondering how much we can,
I would analyze that, I guess.
On
like
the
to see
clean sweeping part of
Somebody
it,
has
you
those
still have to
numbers.
clean and sweep your streets, even if you don't
State or.
put as much salt, sand on them, right? You're not gonna eliminate that completely. You still have to run the machine through and clean the streets, cause there's gonna be some sand on it, even if you're in salt priority. There are gonna be times where you're still gonna need to put some sand down, and just in general to clean things up.
You're gonna keep it out of your travel. Biggest part of your sand cleanup is for vehicle traffic.
so salt costs about 8 times more, but you're putting down 24 times more sand. 1,200 pounds per mile versus 50 pounds per mile.
Hmm.
That's
Wait a
just,
minute, no, 50 pounds per mile of salt?
Yeah. You ever seen
That's
that?
like I could pick up a 50-pound bag.
50 to 80
Oh,
pounds.
just
they
spread
got that
over an
little meter
entire
that comes out,
mile?
And it goes right in the middle of the lane and it melts from
the
the
middle out.
incline of the road, from the inside out to your tires. It's amazing. It's when you get salt on the road, it's working. A lot of people don't like salt, it eats your vehicle up, but I mean, there's.
Does it damage the,
So does everything
road?
else.
No?
No, cause it melts away and runs off.
What about where it's going? What about the river? Like, would you be excluding areas around the river for that? I mean, you're talking about putting a lot more salt into the runoff and,
I think if you look at your cubic meters of water that run through there, I don't think it would ever.
Yeah, I don't, we wouldn't, it's just like, look at us where we had it, we're adding. What's it, 8 loads of salt to a sand pile to pre-salt our sand. And we're sitting right on the river basin right there, so.
Right.
DEP allows us. because-
Your 8 loads of salt pretty much take care of the difference on your in-town sand and treatment. You know, you have to put it in sand, just say you want money.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's something we'll definitely explore, I've talked about it in the past, and it would be a good place to see.
If you can do any kind of research in the next like 4 weeks, I'm sure there's numbers.
I'll do as much as I can, I'll get.
I'm just saying, I'm sure the state has numbers or other municipalities certainly must have numbers.
A couple of the trucks too.
Worth taking a look.
Yeah.
Well, looking at, I mean, so for this half year budget, we got 83,000 in there. You've only used 12,600, and so you've got about, you know, if you projected that out, you still got 50 grand left. Want that by your salt or your sand or?
Well, yeah,
And then-
I plan on, we can only take 60 ton or 80 ton of salt, so that's 2 loads of salt, and that's salt shed, but. We can, if you want, I mean, the pit opens up, I'll call Seth, I can buy, if he can.
Well,
I'll take it.
I'm just thinking, cause, so if you added 2025,
Yeah.
6 month plus your 2025, 26 budget.
well, hold on a second, you can't just do that, because that $83,000 in the 2025 budget. That goes to basins, culverts, cold patching, road paint, it'd be really
Yes.
nice to have some crosswalks painted this year. You know, traffic light signs, there's other stuff in there,
Yeah.
it's not just all salt and sand.
And I wasn't done. So if you added those 2 up, you're at what, 250?
Yeah.
For a 18-month budget,
Yeah,
and then like, that seems like a huge increase.
Yeah.
you're not gonna do much of your culverts or anything before the middle of June anyway, cause you just,
Well, and like I said, the coal patch, you could probably take some, the coal patch part of it too, is that there's probably spring roads are coming here, so, we're gonna start. And that's very expensive.
Thank you for fixing a giant hole in the middle of Webb Road. Every time I drive down, I'm like, which puddle had the big hole in it?
It's a never ending story.
So Jack, if there's money that's been appropriated in the 6 months 2025 budget, it's not spent at the end of the year, that goes into the general fund,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
So we can't just take it and add it, we would then have to make an allowance for the 2026 budget to pull more from that amount from the general fund.
no, Jason's saying buy it now. Use
Say
that
buy
money,
it
buy
now.
it, that way it doesn't bounce into the general fund, just buy it now,
Right.
pre-buy it.
You buy it now.
Buy it before June 30th,
Then you can give some of it, you could knock some of that down with some.
but you don't wanna knock it down too much, cause you are, like I'm saying, it's an 18-month budget, so
Correct.
you know, don't.
It's not an I think it's gonna confuse people by saying it's an 18-month budget.
You got 18 months worth of money there, but we've only spent
$1,200,
$12,000, yeah.
12,000 bucks.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
So
We
I'm
have
looking at,
6
so the-
months worth of budget money and we've spent 12,000 out of it. We
Mhm.
haven't settled on a budget amount for 2025, 26 yet, and I don't think that. I think it's gonna be very confusing to talk about it as an 18-month budget, like, if we don't think we're going to spend the rest of the 2025 6-month budget amount, then certainly, you know, Donnie has the ability within the 6 months to appropriate those funds. And if it requires approval of the council to do an extra purchase of something that wasn't originally in there, that's fine. But I don't think that we should just be adding it in.
No,
but
And I
it's-
wanna make sure that the stuff that he had planned on doing with all of that gets actually funded and done. So if there were culverts and basins and things like that that need to be done, we're not out of like flood danger by any means. If we have a severe storm, you know, you could be looking at washed out roads and stuff and have to replace the culvert. So if you do wanna buy it ahead, I would encourage you to wait until like June to do it. You know, do it at the very end, whatever hasn't been planned for, because this is supposed to be like, I don't know, there was work that you told us that was gonna be done with that funding, not just salt and sand purchasing, because technically all the salt and sand in the 6-month budget would have been purchased back in the fall. And then we would be purchasing salt and sand for 25, 26 out of the next budget,
So
not.
maybe what he could do is refer back to what he had and what his plans were, see where it lines up with what he spent and what's left and let us know.
It's right, you're honest, you're spending another $12,000 on coal patch, there's no doubt in my mind. So
Yeah.
you're gonna take another $12,000 of that money's gonna go to coal patch.
and that's,
But would you have
And that's-
25, you gotta have 25 grand sitting there at the end.
that's what I just said.
Yeah.
That's why I projected that out till the end of June and.
Yeah,
we
that's
still
what I'm
got,
saying, you're gonna have.
Actually, what I can do.
Yeah. Still got 45 grand
I
sitting
can
there.
buy, I can buy culverts, they did the state bids for street and dogs, so we got the price. I
Yeah,
can buy
make
the
sure you've
culverts.
covered your plans and then there's excess.
I mean, ideally so even if you bought your culverts now and your work wasn't done until July or August, it still comes out of that budget.
Mhm.
And if you have assigned costs for things like that, especially if it's something that we think is going to be having a drastic change in pricing because of the economic climate at the national level right now, you know, I think we need to purchase supplies with that in mind as much as we can as well, to kind of buffer us against increases. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that putting it into sand and salt is the best strategy.
Out of that money, we'll buy your road paint, usually traditionally I buy that in May, for your crosswalk and stuff, so. Obviously that will come out of that.
I mean, it really doesn't matter if it's salt or if it's culverts or if it's.
Yeah, I
whatever, we
don't,
can
I'm just
spend the
saying,
money.
you're gonna roughly have 50 grand, and if
We're,
you're gonna wanna spend it on these line items any way you want, it doesn't really matter. But
Can we
I
see-
don't necessarily know that 174,000 for the 2025-26 budget
Needs to be in there.
is appropriate, given that you're gonna buy a fair amount of this before June 30th. And then turn around and buy it again, you can't even hold that much salt and sand, so
Well, this is gonna go through.
I'm not-
Next winter season though. remember.
I know that, I know,
So could you comfortably take it 30 down,
I did.
143?
I just think it should be looked at a little more in depth
and,
to get a better number.
and just as a reference point, we're year-to-date 20. So as of today, we're year-to-date 20.
Okay,
2020, okay.
792.
okay.
Which, yeah, so let's say you'd be up to 40, you still have 43 grand.
How much was, do we have the break, I don't have it with me tonight, do we have the breakdown of how much was associated with each? Like this, sand 32.5, salt. 55?
Yeah,
Do we have that for the 6
That's
month?
what I just tried to pull up, I didn't.
I mean, for the 6 month,
Yeah, for the 6 month, yeah.
I don't have that. I tried to just quickly quantities together for the 12.
What mine's not here.
I gave mine to staff and me. Well, maybe, no, I don't.
What is this?
Anyway. I guess I would just say. I think 1005 general should be reassessed.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Just write a note how much can.
Just reassess it, cause I think you have a fair amount of money. You know, if you projected the 20 grand out to June, you still gonna have 43 grand left. Whether you buy gravel, coal patch, traffic lights. Doesn't matter, but the point is it's gonna kind of come down some. It shouldn't be more than what we budgeted in the last. You know,
So right now, we have two items that
So I
Donnie
think
is
the
gonna come
biggest
back
one,
and
I
tell
think,
us
Jason, what
about.
you're seeing is there's a $20,000 more in gravel. And there's a reason for it, because you've got Powers Road, you've got the Johnston Flat Road that people are screaming every day.
yeah,
We gotta make some decisions on those two, so it's Johnston Flat, we
Right.
signs that say we're not maintaining it, we gotta do something, because every day. Some of that was $20,000 to put in those gravel roads.
yeah, we just put 43, what, a year and a half ago?
Yeah. and-
Johnson Flat Road?
We did have-
You got 1.7 miles of this.
I don't
What
know.
do we use it for gravel?
What are we using? We're using good gorilla gravel, well, we're using 3 inch, and then we can either get that from Dodge or Sasstone, and then we're using the 1.5 inch.
We use it like the crushed ledge, serious crushed ledge?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's,
okay.
I mean, if you guys wanna take a look at the difference in the road, go out and look at the, if you really wanna look at it, go out and look at, Cable Road. We re-ditched that, if you go out there, it looks like a highway still with that gravel, we ditched it, and it's unreal, but you got that paved section of the Powers Road. That's second half, that wasn't paved, that's just blown apart. And we gotta do something with it, every day I get 13 calls about that road, and we're gonna end up paying for tires and struts.
Yeah, I just had to bring that.
And that
gravel
was thinking that gravel, I put a little bit more in gravel, thinking that we could touch some of that stuff up. Cause obviously we're not gonna pay.
Alright,
Right.
what else we got for questions for Donnie going down? Gas, diesel,
Donnie, so right now, for the next time we look at this, you're gonna do salt priority costs to see if we're gonna make any adjustments on that.
We can do that.
And then reassess the supplies line.
Yep.
To look at what's left in the budget for this year, see what work can be done that doesn't need to be included in next year. Those are the two things, right?
Yeah, I can do
We
that.
don't have anything else so far?
not yet.
Okay. Clean use, gasoline, diesel.
But all was good.
Motor vehicles.
I have some
Maintenance.
questions on the, yeah, I mean, it's on the equipment line, 1510,
Equipment piece, yeah.
small tools. I'm guessing that was in preparation of hiring the mechanic and having to,
Yeah, we actually have no tools.
you know, no tools.
When our Timmy McCarthy left, we've been buying little by little, trying to get tools so we can do some of the work. Realistically, we had like nothing. We just couldn't find a wrench. Bernard Williams went down about a month ago to main surplus and for $400-500 got us a good charge of some tools so we can actually do some work, but yeah, we really don't have a lot to be doing the things that we're doing, so we bought, pry bars. A lot of the stuff before was Timmy's.
Yeah,
And when he left, he built, everything that was his, he brought everything to the job with him.
and
Left a lot on the table too.
yeah, now, 2024, you left $6,500 on the table. Right now, you rough, through
$3,000.
whatever, you got $3,000 left. So between now and June,
Almost definitely.
if you got $3,000 that you wanna, if you got tools that you need. Or tools that one-offs, Harbor Freight works for a lot of one-off stuff.
No, we got one off questions. Everybody. can-
No.
Oh, yeah, no,
Five jam tools doesn't go very far.
no, it doesn't,
It's not.
yeah, we all understand that, it's just,
If we're gonna put it in here, I guess my thing is, spend it. Use
well,
it. If we're gonna put it, if we're gonna budget it, cause we left it on the table at 24.
well,
One of the
spend
things that
it on
always
what you need.
Happens is,
Yeah.
you always look at that motor vehicle thing, because we got old equipment, and
Right,
every year, when we got 30,000 and we're spending 60 to maintain what we got, I get nervous, I don't.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Me, I don't go over budget, I stay within my community.
Overhead doing maintenance.
I would hope that 1505 would be lower this year with a couple newer trucks and a lot of maintenance done last year, but holy cow. You have, well,
I mean, that's through a quarter.
What's that?
that 27 grand so far.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at 96 and 24.
Uh, Yep,
That was two of those trucks that we bought off like S&G and,
Well, no, we just got that one back. Lip Switch has had that for 6 months. I've been waiting for a floorboard and a tank and trying to find parts for these things, but it's the only one that's got a rear end and a transmission heavy enough to tow our trailer,
right,
so. I mean, and the sad thing is it's got a Swenson stainless steel body on it, that's a sanding body.
Yep.
You go to buy one right now at $55,000, so it's not like a.
right.
Mm.
And you can transfer that down too.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and we've got some excess equipment that, obviously now we've got a few older ones that we can. Probably bend down the road too.
85 is probably not unrealistic on that, I mean, it's,
I wouldn't nickel and dime that right this minute, I don't think, just based on the 3 month cost spent already.
you
Then we got the grader lease, we knew that. I had a question on equipment rental, 2015. You got 12 grand in there. It says rentals of brush trimmers, rollers, pavement grinders, skid steer, etc. What do you? What do you, huh?
Is there a project?
Yeah, what are
Yeah,
you,
basically, anytime we do our gravel roads, we gotta we run a, 10-ton compactor, sometimes we'll run a skid steer a little bit, so that's basically what we're doing now. With anytime we're doing our gravel roads, so
Where's that been budgeted previously?
it's been right in the same thing, it's rentals.
no,
Oh, there's nothing in
there's
there.
nothing there.
Can't
So
do,
like.
yeah,
Well, unless it's per-
20.
Well, that-
5, cause there's just, we were using
2005.
equipment purchase, but I think I saw some of these
Yeah,
rentals were
we used
going
to
to
be-
that.
Okay,
Oh.
And I tried to create, I
Yeah.
tried to realign these lines, like I added this equipment lease purchase, so that greater payment
yeah,
yeah,
is, nobody ever forgets it.
Right,
Good.
no, that's good.
good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Good.
Yep,
Yes.
that makes sense that it was 2005, I see
We
that
miss
now.
payment, they come get it back and we do.
Oh, and that's what that, okay, I see. So. I'll bring up it's part of the capital improvement, but. Depending which way you go, it would be in the equipment rental. For quite a few, for the last few years, you've mentioned. Getting rid of the excavator and renting one out. And then I see in this budget, you were gonna trade the excavator in. And then buy an excavator with the cost difference would be like 50 grand. After the trade in, it cost you 50 grand to buy a brand new excavator, right?
Correct.
What is that excavator gonna be used for year round? What do you have for product? You do ditching with it?
Well, remember, this is where it's beneficial, if we get this excavator. You gotta take, we run an excavator, and then you got the water sewer who runs an excavator, cause we do all the excavation and digging. And then we're doing the cemetery excavation down in the cemetery. So if you look at combining those three line items. It's costing us $25,000 a year to run excavators, and we can buy one. Trade in this one that is way too big. And you got a 5-year warranty on it, and you can pay, after 2 years of owning this machine, it's paid for itself. But
So then we would see an offsetting revenue. If we were gonna do that, following that train of thought, every time the cemetery or water sewer uses it. Should see offsetting revenue.
Well, for cemetery, we'd have to have a line for equipment rental, and I don't remember if there's one there.
And they would rent it off of Public Works.
Yeah.
we've traditionally done all our digging for everything, anyway, but I think it's crazy for everybody, different departments,
Don't-
renting all these machines.
Don't we have a backhoe? We have a backhoe down to the dump?
Yeah, we do.
That can't dig, cemetery graves?
You got a 2004 machine that's old, it's down at the transfer station packing down demolition and metal cans.
Just asking.
No, I'm saying, so it's a 2004, and we picked that up. I think it was part of the deal when we bought the excavator, they got the backhoe too. I mean, it serves its purpose, but it's not, I wouldn't use it as a primary digging machine for.
And those are the only two digging machines we have? Is that
That
back
is correct.
down there and then you get the excavator?
And one of the things that obviously, I've thrown this out there, and here's another way to offset it. I've got some money in my transfer station and recycling money in my capital. It's staying down at the transfer station, we use it the bulk of the time. And we're looking to buy other equipment. Why can't the transfer station purchase that piece of equipment that's there that we're already using? And the public works order to go to purchase something else. I don't know what, I think I've got, I don't know, 20,000 or 25,000. Buy that off of public works, the revenue, put it over there, and you can use it for a capital purchase towards that excavator.
And then, what-
So,
well, I'm just thinking with your revenue lines, that pays for 2 years.
well, so you can, yeah, you could go that route, but the cemetery uses it from what, June to October? Digging graves?
No, as you remember, we're not digging graves every day, it's a planned thing, so we go down for 2
I
hours.
realize that if it wasn't for the cemetery.
Yeah.
I would tell you, go rent the excavator.
Yeah.
For the month or two that you need, at $4,000 a month. For the size you want. And you'd be done with it, and I'd tell you never to buy
Right,
the excavator.
right.
Cause you could rent that excavator for 10, 15 years. Never, if it breaks down, if it has any kind of issues, they come pick it up and you keep right on going. Cause right now, when you buy this, it breaks down, now you gotta go rent one anyway. So if it wasn't for the cemetery, I would say the town would not buy one, they would rent.
Right, it's the same way with water. and sewer.
But the cemetery, you need it from,
Yeah,
June, May to October.
and if,
So you don't wanna rent an excavator for 5 months, cause that's, well, it's still 20 grand.
Do you
Maybe
need
it's not
an
that bad.
excavator at the cemetery though? Don't they have a new tractor and couldn't you get a backhoe attachment for the tractor?
No.
You're only digging,
Your backhoe attachment's probably still what,
they don't have a tractor that big.
10, 12?
Depending
It's not
on the
big
tractor
enough.
size.
It's not, there's, the only tractors you have there are mowers and they're,
I thought they got a bigger tractor for lifting and repairing headstones. And actually digging, because I'm remembering a conversation where the excavator or the backhoe that was there couldn't actually fit in to
Probably can't.
get it in there because of the close
It was-
quarters of the cemetery plots and stuff.
it was voted down.
That's probably-
It was voted down a few years ago, you guys didn't actually.
So what if the town, if it's just public works that needs the excavator, or public works and
Water sewer.
water sewer? And water sewer is kind of hit or miss, but so say it's just public works, you have what? A month worth of work in the summer to do ditching, 2 months?
Yeah, Jerry uses it for probably 3 months, we do work with it.
But you
Could you condense
Yeah,
it
you could.
to
schedule.
1 or 2 months? There's no way.
I mean, you can do what I.
Well, that-
Watch for as little as you want, lately it's been, we're doing more than we're doing less, because we're trying to get caught up with.
Well,
Do the same amount of work in a smaller period of time, schedule.
that's right, schedule it to use that thing every day for a month straight or 2 months straight. And now that you've done all that work, cause you've done a ton of work on ditching, you're a little more caught up, I would think. I would rent the excavator, public works, and then water and sewer. They can get one, sub it out, contract it out when they need to have somebody come dig it. And soak it in cemetery. And you save yourself the breakdown costs, the maintenance costs, the the moving all around town costs. I mean, for the last 6 months, you haven't had a truck that could haul the trailer to move the excavator.
Well,
So we haven't been dead in the water anyway.
Excavator and haul behind the 550. I don't. need
Yeah.
that truck.
No, obviously, yeah, the smaller excavator, you
But I'm
obviously
thinking
can.
last year, it's $3,250, I think we rented that excavator for that the cemetery had it, because they had a bunch of work with stones, so there's $3,000 worth of revenue, if you could take $3,000 of that. I think we figured out it was $11,000 a year annual payment for 5 years. That's $11,000 a year payment for 5 years after we trade hours in, if we can get $3,000 here, we can get $3,000 revenue from doing the digs that we're doing. We've done 7 this winter for the water sewer. It's paying for itself. It's actually not
I heard this same thing,
costly.
or Heather heard this same thing before I was on council to buy the last excavator.
That's what I.
That it was gonna pay for itself, and this is a great excavator.
So
And
I,
then we buy the trailer to haul it, and then we have no trailer, we have no thing to haul it, and now it's too big and it's no good and all this.
so I think that.
I'm a little worried that we're gonna turn around and do the same thing again.
So I originally brought up the fact that we were spending $16,000 to $20,000 a year renting excavators,
Sure,
right? And so I said, why don't we own one? This is ridiculous.
That's right.
Why don't we own one? And so we bought one. And I think the error was that it was too big and it was supposedly sized at the time. This was before, this is when Steve was still here. It was like his second year here. Steve liked to buy a lot of stuff. And at the time, it was supposed to be sized so that water sewer would be able to use it and public works would be able to use it.
no,
And now we're hearing that it's not sized correctly, so I
So
don't think that the premise of not having it, I think the fact is, it's the wrong thing to have. Number
Right.
one, because of the trailer issue, and number two, because of hauling it, and number three, because it's apparently the wrong size for the work that Donnie is doing now, which is different than the work Steve was doing.
I think as a town, we want less equipment, not more equipment. And anything we can rent out, which that you can easily rent out, that those are not hard to get. It's just, I think it's a better way to go, but I will say if you're gonna buy it, as. In the past, when you've dug for water and sewer, have you been charging
No,
water and
it
sewer?
should be.
Yeah, cause
It's
that's
it's costing us money.
you come out of taxpayer money, water and sewer is supposed to come out of their.
Enterprise money. It's the same with
enterprise
the
money.
cemetery. It should be coming out of the.
That-
fund. It should be coming out of
That is
the
a
fund.
huge,
It's a huge cost.
no, it's not a huge cost, it's a huge problem.
It is a problem.
Cause taxpayers shouldn't be paying for water and
You're
sewer.
right.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be paid.
So that's, not something, that's where I say,
That's a
if they
budget
need
issue.
it, then they need to
Right,
Well, what are we looking at?
Rent it.
80 series?
No, like a D60, right?
Yeah.
It's 14,000 pounds.
18,000, 16,000 or it's a 17,800, I think is actually.
So that's a 80 series.
Yes,
That's a 80 series excavator.
What the hell do you have now?
Well, he's got like a
that's a 145
Okay.
GR and
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
massive.
T series.
Oh, you want an 18,000 pound?
Yeah.
That's a 30,000 pound.
Oh,
that's half the size.
I priced out a D60, it was $4,000 a month roughly.
So, I mean, 2018 on here with 3,000 hours for 24 grand. Out the door. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's a,
we can get that for our excavator, we go net. And then still be making revenue. On something that we go net for.
if we follow through and do that.
Yep,
I mean, you can go to a broker, they'll sell our excavator quick, they'll have that sold.
Didn't we already put it up for sale?
But I would use a broker,
I never really saw it out there.
I'd use a broker.
we did, a lot of people are staying away from them because it's a D series machine, they have big emission problems with them. There wasn't much research done and in the past is the past, I was in here fighting against that machine when they were trying to buy it, but.
You
How much
could,
are we asking for?
I think, Chadwick Bay Ross would give us 50,000, I think that's the most it's been offered
We
for.
can get it for 25-30,000, we get a 2018-19 machine and make money. And then we start billing. We have to create revenue,
cemetery needs to be done,
cemetery, sewer.
both of those are enterprises.
We don't have to do it, I mean, we could.
Yeah.
Take that right,
I just
take that out.
We don't want something with this big one, it's gonna cost us big money. 'cause
No, I-
they pump on 10
if
grand.
Chad-
I agree with that wholeheartedly,
Right.
I get skeptical when we talk about buying stuff and.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
You know, it sounds lovely, but sometimes that doesn't work. What happens when it breaks and you gotta turn around?
I mean,
if they give us 50. Well, say we net, right, say we find one for 50 grand, in 2020 model. The revenue will offset any maintenance costs that you've got.
Should. If it's
And it
managed properly.
Never,
Should.
and then you, yeah.
Yeah,
Why
okay.
wouldn't that be?
Okay,
I mean, I just know that that's the thing that's not gonna do us no good.
That just kind of answers the question a couple weeks from now when we go to Capitol, right?
when we go to Capitol, we'll circle
Let's
back,
write this down.
right this.
I wrote it all down.
Perfect.
No, thank you, thank God we have one of them. I don't take anything for
I'm
that.
like, we can just start invoicing, I wanna know how much we're charging per
I
hour.
just really try to bank on my memory and it's terrible,
Thank
so.
God, she
Uh,
related to you, not gonna kill you later.
I ain't been feeling it.
oh, no, she will. It's fine. Okay, well, thank you, Donnie, for
Yeah,
that part, but, all right, we'll keep going
I'm
down.
up for saving money and making money.
Hey,
Good man.
You gotta make revenue, you don't come on.
All right, contracts and rentals. Yep. Guess I got another thing to bring up.
here it is.
Donnie, I see you have the plowing and sanding contract with 148.
Yes.
Have you talked to the, that was a 1-year contract,
That was a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
With a possibility of extending it.
was it, was there a stipulation in
With the
there?
stipulation extended.
If he did a good job,
Good
but
job, yeah.
everything I've heard, he did great.
You know, for a first year guy.
I heard he
Only
did.
to God, I mean,
Right, you're right.
but, yeah, and that would signify, I talked to him a little bit and where he thought, because obviously it's a budget. And I said I was gonna put in for 5%, and he was 130 something before. I said, if I budgeted my number, I said, what are you thinking? And, obviously it was a learning curve for him or whatever, and, I said that, you know, felt that around 146 to 148, I said I budget 148. And they could come in with whatever their percent increase, and you guys can decide whether you want to go with it. It's not like we have
Right,
any,
okay.
any option, you're ready to go home, any option.
Okay, that's good. I was a little concerned when I saw the contract in there, but I knew we didn't have a contract, so.
No, and he'll obviously, we could put it on a council meeting afterwards, and he doesn't,
Yeah.
he wanted to make sure that everything was good, and I said, I'm happy with it, and I said, that's the
Sure.
council decision, not mine, so.
And then I had 2 more quick questions, and I apologize for hijacking these things a little bit, but
Somebody's gotta do it.
yeah. The mowing contract, how many more years is left on that? I should maybe know it, but I do not.
I think we're in our second of a 3-year, I think you
Is
extended
it?
them 2 years, yeah, I think this is the second year.
Okay, I thought maybe it was the last year, but I wasn't
No,
sure.
I think they got one more after, I think this, at the end of this year, they've got one more left.
Okay. And none of that was budgeted in the 6 month or? Yeah,
No. No.
just make sure you're not double dipping on that, that's all. Yeah, on the 2505 contracts and rentals.
The
I
mowing.
was talking about the mowing contract of 25 grand.
No, that.
And then crack sealing, is that for town, like all town roads?
This is something that it's been in the past, I put back in here because we can save some of the roads that.
Do you actually do it?
Oh, no, I actually have a company that will come out and do it so much per foot.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's gonna save some of the roads that we can repair now, so we don't get a $3 million.
Yeah, I'm seeing those right now.
And matter of fact, I actually talked to the,
That'll be good.
a representative from a company that does the airport. And there's a bunch of guys that he knows that are doing the municipal side this way, they're going for airport.
How-
Kind of mixed, but he said, you know, $12,000 will save you $250,000 to $300,000 a load a year. I love it.
Yeah, how far does 12,000 go?
12,000, they said they can do about 5 or 6 miles of fairly decently, so it's not bad, so.
Yeah. No, I will,
And it's not like we're gonna crack every 3 feet, but we've got places where.
no, but I've seen, coming up here next to Kleinschmidt, there's cracks right
Oh,
there,
yeah.
but that was like a couple years ago, but even the stuff we've done last summer.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
cracks there that can be, but that's great.
That's
that's-
PM stuff, and we gotta start doing it, or we're not gonna.
I thought that was gonna have to be in the paving, but that's awesome that it's in there, so that's good to know. And then, I assume cleaning and sweeping is cleaning up the sand.
Cleaning and sweeping, yeah, and that's part of that is also, that's not just sweeping, that's also the same company. I got them to lower their price because they actually come and back out all our catch basins too, so.
Oh, good.
So we can do it for, it's cost us 3 to 4 times that amount.
But we might even be able to save some here if we go south priority,
Yes.
so we might even be able to see some.
You say,
Well, yeah, cause was that sealing, was that cleaning and sweeping? That must have been in the 6-month budget.
yes,
We knew that was
that,
happening.
we knew that was coming.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So, wait a
So
minute,
yeah, to your point, Craig. That might come down.
That might come down as part of the south
If you would,
priority.
so.
Yeah,
so cleaning and sweeping, we have a company that comes and does that, we don't do the sweeping ourselves?
No.
Cause I thought we had a sweeper machine, cause it
You've
kept
had,
breaking,
you've had 2 sweeping machines that are,
we have no sweeper machines now.
they're up there in the backbone yet. We've had 2 of them, but, when we bought them, they run for about 2 hours and then you're working on them for 12 and then
We
everybody.
subbed it
So
out
we have no
last year.
sweepers that are operating, this is just a contract,
They're going out
Yeah.
to bid.
okay,
They're
so,
in the bone yet, so we don't do that anymore.
We did that last year
You're done.
and we did it this 6-month budget. And then we'll do it, which is. It's pretty good.
engineering.
Okay.
Yeah.
Engineering costs, what's that? What are we designing and replacing and
So,
do you know?
last year we had, 15,000 in there, I guess for just maybe miscellaneous
Mhm.
engineering services. What I would like for us to consider is if we kind of get more involved with, doing for the paving work that we do is, putting together like, pavement management plan,
Mhm.
do, actual bid specs for the paving. Specify the mix that we want, make sure that the contractor's actually using that mix. Have them, come and do some inspections and, things like that, just to make sure that we're getting the most out of the paving budget, because if we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on paving, this is a good way to make sure that everything's staying on the rails as far as it's the right spec of pavement, it's been put down right, temperatures are right, all that stuff. And, I'll go with that.
So that's having the engineer on site during the jobs.
Yeah, and, it would be, it's really as far as 25,000 is gonna go, but I think what I would wanna get established is have kind of somebody on board, helping us put together a plan, so that annually, what needs to be addressed before, crack seal when we need to, and then do the surfaces when we need to. So that those don't deteriorate to the point where we're spending 4 or 5 times the money to address them, we could have done it, earlier, that type of thing. And then we do want their project bid specs, and we do want some level of inspection, but as much as far as that'll go. And then I think when we come back a year from now, we'll see, okay, this was fine. Maybe we gotta, go a little bit more, but we'll be on the right track if we can get started with that type of service.
So we don't have this dedicated to any particular project as far as like, the Crawford Road Bridge had
Yes.
some abutment issues, there were culvert issues on Sebasticook.
They're gonna be helping, actually, we're gonna get.
More project based though, right?
And those are.
Yeah, we're gonna be using.
General work.
Those
so
are,
this would encompass that work.
Yes, this is gonna encompass, because that's happening this year, hopefully we're gonna have enough funds.
25,000 was enough to do the design and work on the.
That's-
That's all.
That's all.
we're gonna do.
That
is
design's done, it's
Sorry.
just implemented.
Just an inspection and a finished report to make sure that they've done what we wanted.
Okay.
So there's money that they're allowing for that. too.
So one problem that we had, like a pot of money to put to engineering, 15,000, I believe is what it was previously. The problem is we couldn't get any engineers to do things in timely manner for us. So do we have new contacts that we're actually gonna be able to do projects? Cause we had a bunch of projects ready. And then they're just like, oh, we can't get to them. And then they would start them and not finish them. And it was holding everything up because they'd started it and we'd already. So do you know, like, are we gonna be putting it out to bid to a particular engineering company? To have them like be our guy or our company?
Yeah, I
to
think
do these things?
that's what we'd want, is we'd wanna have a relationship with a consulting firm, similar to how we do it with the airport, where we have a consulting firm and you kind of run with them for some number of years, and you know, when you need something done, you know, that pertains to, you know, let's say pavement or bridges and culverts, you know, you call them and I know that a lot of them are busy, but not everybody's busy, and I'd be really surprised if we couldn't find somebody that'd be willing to work with us that way.
We just have one company that we can't use. The one to manage our airport project.
Wow.
They didn't
I
do,
think we've talked about this too, because, yeah, I see at least Oliver is doing because they're doing the water sewer design here, that they talked to them about getting pricing to do the civil part of this as well.
Okay,
And
Auburn does that.
that
yeah,
makes,
and then they
that
said
makes
that
a lot of
obviously get a
sense.
better rate if we obviously we have to do that, so I said, we've already got a range yet. I mean, the
I like
last set
that.
of specs and print that I got
They're very reliable, I just,
up here were awesome.
yeah,
Good.
okay.
Spot on.
that makes me feel better about it.
Any other questions, concerns, comments for Donnie on highway department? Okay, Donnie, you know a few things that we've got asked. All right, we will move on to Public Works Buildings and Grounds. Not too much has changed here.
Contracts and it's 25/5. That was my only question I had on that.
Oh.
That's mechanical services for your central heat and air, that's for the cleaning of the boiler, the.
We just never have it.
Yeah.
We never spent a dollar in it. That's what I don't understand.
I don't,
Is
I
it-
think
because it
mechanical
hasn't been-
services that this is, for this year, they haven't spent a dollar.
Well, if
No,
you look 22, 23,
I
24.
think it might be, is it new?
It doesn't look
Well,
like
I
it's been
think-
charged correctly or something, I can't
Yeah.
imagine we
Yeah.
haven't done
It's one of
any
those things that got charged. back
general
to me.
maintenance
That's
or
right.
plumbing or
Back to
anything.
public works, because we always handled, you know,
Okay.
the mechanical contractors for the roof and. It's more reflecting, showing the buildings and grounds for everything, it's just like everything else, so if the rec needed something, we went down and we fixed the doors and we did the plumbing and they need to have money in there, same thing here.
No, I got you, but that's, I mean, if you've got it billed out somewhere, then it needs to be offset.
right,
Then you would save 2,500 somewhere in the public works, wherever that was, and you can probably track that down where that bill was going, you can find the GL code that was used, right? That's a maintenance contract. That's a maintenance contract?
Yeah, I think so.
we're saying like the air system,
Yes, I believe so.
But like if that was being billed to general. To the general buildings fund, right? So that's what you're saying, it was
Yeah.
basically an admin.
Well, I mean,
It's
buildings and
been-
grounds is within public work,
But it's never been charged on any line.
Yeah, so,
but probably have never done anything, no.
It's just like something.
Absorbing it somewhere.
Like I buy, and I'll use for example, we have to use magnesium chloride down to the library.
Right.
So I went down with Dawn, or we went over her budget, I went over her budget with her, and we're spending $2,400 on magnesium chloride. And then her maintenance and her stuff, I said, well, you guys don't buy, why am I buying this? And we're bringing it down to you, and it's
Mhm.
costing me money.
Right,
So Jack sent me down, said, Donnie, go down, talk to Donna, let's figure this out, same way with building maintenance. She said, why gonna have this fixed? I said, you got $5,000, about $4,000 for building maintenance. She said, no, that's from the masonry inspection, the inspection on the roof. Well, you need to say inspections,
right,
and then that's for the inspections, and I need $3,500 to do the work with, for the maintenance.
Gotcha.
Because who does the maintenance? We're up there on a ladder, climbing up to the roof, I'm putting flat on there, so it's taking a day or two of my guys' time, and we're doing the work.
So all I'm saying here is if we've been paying it, we just need to find that line item and whatever that line item just gets reduced by $2,400 because I
right.
guarantee that's being carried over year too.
Well, no,
So we
apparently it hasn't been.
It's being invoiced somewhere else.
It's being invoiced and paid
Somehow it's being
somewhere.
invoiced somewhere
So
else.
that line item can be reduced $2,400 when we find out where that goes.
right.
Yeah, so that one needs a little
We'll just have
research.
to find
Should be an
out what
offset.
GL code.
I don't think it's in buildings and, it might be highway, buildings, ground, whatever it might be, but we need weed killer for sidewalks and Main Street and all that crap. That looked
I don't see that.
god awful last summer
Would that be under
Not-
general supplies for?
We could do- we could
and
do-
it's probably general supplies for highway, but
You're talking about sidewalks though, that's not building, well, I guess building.
Yeah.
Yes, it is buildings and grounds. I think that's where that should be coming
Yeah.
out. I think we've corrected that.
Is
I
that,
think
but
I
is,
was paying
the
for that.
grass is coming out on the, it's along the curbing, right? That's not town property. That's,
It's,
Right.
it's in the side, the cracks.
it's in the
sidewalk.
Oh,
sidewalk,
yeah.
you're not talking about.
Whatever it is, go,
Yeah. it
just
should
make
come
sure
out.
you get some weed killer or something.
You betcha.
Please,
Well, not weed killer, we're gonna use natural.
that's what I meant.
Oh.
Back to that 24.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
So that's, if you go back up the highway. In line 1515,
Mhm.
building and plant, that's the only place that you're gonna have. You're not getting $4,100 worth of overhead door maintenance done. So that must be where your $2,400 is hitting. So that's in your 1515, so we can reduce that line item.
So we can
potentially.
take that out, right?
Take it down to like
Take it out.
1,500 or 1,100, whatever the difference is.
Depends what the door maintenance was. Some of those big doors, they could have
Yeah, you
four
got-
$4,000 in
You got
it.
big doors, that's building maintenance.
They could easily-
That's
Don't
building
bring it
maintenance.
every year, you don't think that's where your $2,400 is in for your,
All, you mean out of the building?
I mean, I think Jack can,
you can find that thing,
Well, I'm
I
not-
don't even know where that's going.
Right.
See what's there. I'm looking.
I think,
So
Noted
complex
that,
and
right?
rentals though, that's not, it says general maintenance too,
Who's the
but
overhead door line?
which.
well, he mentioned
1515 on the
Talking
highway.
about-
On page 21.
1515 on highway.
Yeah.
He thought maybe it was there, but
Yeah.
Just wonder,
like you said, there must be a line.
there's gotta be a line that's being paid somewhere.
Exactly.
So it's either there, or it's gonna be up in your general, up in your,
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to guess where it comes from.
no, he can find them.
Right.
So how about that 14,000 buildings and ground?
Where are you?
1010, page 24.
That's the
That's
total budget of everything.
Oh, okay. Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah.
So the buildings and ground include this building?
No, we have a municipal building section.
So that's why I'm wondering if
So
that's
is
where it's in.
buildings and grounds, is this like the pool house and the park, snack shack
Like
and the
family car,
gazebo
yeah.
and,
Everything else other than for this building.
so that includes the public works building?
No.
It doesn't,
We-
public works
we already
building,
have
that was
those.
the other line item that Ron was talking about, the overhead door.
Right.
And it doesn't include the library because they have their own budget.
They should have their own
for that.
maintenance budget for their building, they should be maintenance, it should be the motor vehicle or non-motor vehicle, which should be building.
And cemetery does their own building maintenance on their buildings,
Correct, that comes out of the trust.
thinking where else? Do we have responsibilities for maintaining Pinnacle?
Well, it says right here, like some of the maintenance, it says equipment, general maintenance, industrial park sign, park buildings.
Right.
1510.
1510 is kind of giving you an idea, it's everything outside.
Yeah, because the pool house maintenance and Hathorne Park concession maintenance is part of recreation.
Recreation. Yes.
So what,
Their maintenance is, but not the work done.
Correct.
It was never built to this, just looking at this.
Yeah, I mean,
building.
maybe we just line this out. If we can account for every building in other budgets, and when we're good, then we can just line that out.
That's exactly what I made it up to do, yeah.
So
That
pull
meeting.
that off, so that's, we're gonna change that number at the bottom, 14 down to.
well, we're gonna investigate to
No.
make sure that it doesn't belong to something.
Mhm.
Never been built. Take it out of there, it's being paid somewhere. I mean,
Right.
Well, I mean, if it's the same way, I'm thinking about plumbing, like they got that little extension over here to the water and Stein Park, if they have to, if they've never used it, obviously.
We're gonna change this.
I don't know, that's a good question, where it's going.
Take that for right now.
11:06. Okay.
But it, yeah, plumbing, heating and electrical,
We can add it back in at some point.
it might be Hathorne Park, but I don't really know.
So what are the utilities then? For this buildings that we're not actually maintaining? What is the electricity bill for?
Oh, it's gonna be a big public works building.
It's gotta be a shop.
7,000. Gotta be. It's actually
I'm not
cheaper,
very
it's actually cheaper, that's the garage. So,
That's not, I got utilities in my garage, electricity utility, that has nothing to do with my building.
Public Works, Building and Grounds.
I got my own electrical bill up there.
Electricity,
You have to look at the
water and
electric
sewer
meter
only
number on that, and it would
$100.
tell you the upstairs, what the buildings are, cause I've already got my own.
Yeah, 4,500.
But it falls underneath your public.
Yeah, I
works.
can find out which
You're able
meters
to
are being
pull
charged to that electric
Okay.
line.
Yeah,
3005.
so I don't know if that's half on park at the gazebo, if it's the lights down at half on park.
Yes,
That's probably what it is, the lights out here, maybe, I have no idea.
But if that's double what yours is at the garage. Holy crap.
they're on.
Yours 45,
Well, you look at the same way,
garage now?
Oh, that's.
It's only 4,500 and we got
Yeah.
7 grand here.
it's the same way, I mean, transfer station is
These are cows,
3,500,
whatever it is, I'm not sure.
7,000. But I like that, why am I'm open all the time, why is my lights
Actually,
on 3,500? Parks and Rec Center.
Yeah, it's been quite a bit for the last 3 years.
Electricity, does that have something to do with like the pool pump?
I can blow the pool,
Oh,
I
that
have no
might be-
idea, that's why I'm saying it's kind of pretty huge.
That costs a lot.
Yeah, it's a pool.
I bet you're right, cause it's not in rec, right?
Mm,
No,
The
recreation.
water sewer bill though is
No.
only $100, so.
oh, they get electricity,
Yeah, me too.
6
Rec
grand.
does?
That's what I'm saying, I can operate the transfer station on 3-phase power.
Yeah, they got 6 grand and for that must be for the pool. Can you look into that, Jack?
Oh, yeah.
Alright,
Yeah, I should be able to do that.
okay.
Figure out by that.
We're gonna move on from that and go, we good on buildings and grounds with
Yeah.
Jack looking into electricity and 2,400,
Yes.
that's 2,505 contract services.
Mhm.
All right, and we will jump to transfer station,
Okay.
which is page 26 and 27, 26, transfer station. Do-do-do-do. Anybody? Have any,
My notes were breaking out the salaries again. Need to break out salaries, right, cause that's where a portion of Donnie's is falling into.
right? And two,
I'd just like to see that broken out if we can, so we know where it is.
Oh,
Well,
like
we're gonna-
this?
Yeah, I just made a note. Yep, I just made a note, that I'd like to see that broken down, or like we discussed earlier, one line item, all
Yeah.
public works
And
director.
then, and then that, his share will be out of that number.
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
Anything else? I don't,
The motor vehicle.
I
maintenance.
never get why we do. Is there a reason we do recycling and transfer station differently? One's waste and one's recycling, but it's all the same people.
Originally, when I took over, I wanted them together and it was always separate. And I was told because at that time, recycling had revenue to offset operations, which we sold the
Right,
recyclables. Well, now that ain't true, because I recover money back now through the transfer station side through fees.
okay,
So this,
So
I
it could
always
be put
thought,
back.
I always thought it should be one
So
thing.
you have-
rather than one confusion.
You have a revenue line in both departments though, so it might make sense to keep them separate, to be able to track that
Waste
revenue.
versus recycling, and a lot of
Yeah,
this,
that's
when
fine.
we used it for revenues to see how much it was actually costing us, and how much we could offset the cost of, what it was costing us to do it.
okay. That's fine, I was just, curious.
Much like water and sewer or something.
Oh, let's,
Same for uniforms, $400 per employee.
Yes. And that money is, that's myself, and that's so I think the transfer station is right around 59,000 for me. You've got the truck driver, the waste transport is a full-time position, and the attendant, so that's.
Right.
Obviously, 3 people,
you're fully,
Yeah.
that's fully staffed,
that's fully staffed.
Yep.
And I
so,
have 1 in recycling, actually I have 2 in recycling, but 1 is just recently left, so we have 1 vacant spot at this point. So we'll get that.
should we, I mean, overtime is,
And basically,
we haven't paid that much in overtime,
and
and,
I'll tell you what the reason is, because I've got 21 weeks vacations on books.
okay, that's
And
where,
I've got, you guys have got holidays that fall on Mondays. And one of the things that's been problematic is, a holiday falls on Monday, they're privy to take a day off during the week. And I'm supposed to have 5 people on duty when I'm open, we're lucky to have 3.
Why can't
Most
we just-
days we have 2,
What do you mean they're privy to take a day off during the week after? a month?
because they get paid holidays, a full-time employee, that we don't work Mondays.
We can't just
So,
pay
we
them.
only have, so we have those 3
They
days at the
deserve
end of the
the day
week.
off, probably.
Gotcha.
They take a day off in lieu of the week for the holiday, so like, one will take Wednesday off, one takes Thursday off, we only have 2 days we can do that on, we got 2 people there staffing it on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And we had 2 people that were staffing it on Saturday, so that gives us Thursday and Friday, well, I have employees, so one of them say, well, I wanna take Thursday off, I wanna take Friday off. Well, that leaves me, so I'm on salary, so now I get to sit there and I get to work all week long, and we're short-handed all week long, so. What it does is some of the employees, they get paid straight time anyway, hey, would you like to work so we can be full staffed and not have to deal with this problem, so it covers some of those holidays. For the overtime, and there are other holidays like the day after Thanksgiving, if they voted for a full holiday. You have businesses and other stuff that are still working that want the transfer station open, so that's what the overtime's for, cover the day.
So if you- If the holiday falls on a Monday. We don't work, the person gets paid, and then they also get to take a different day off in the week.
You'll get paid then,
If Monday's a holiday, they would just. They
Take a
would,
day off in lieu of the week.
yeah, they would take it on the day off.
Because they're a
Because
full
because they
time.
wouldn't, that wouldn't be, you're closed Monday, right? That's.
Right.
Right, but.
That's the.
Yeah.
But see, the problem is that all full-time employees get a paid holiday. So
holiday,
how can you not pay somebody for the holiday because they don't?
I would think.
but it
that,
counts towards your overtime. It counts towards overtime, right? Cause holiday is considered straight pay.
Yes.
So
So
like vacation or PTO, holiday goes into straight pay. So if you paid them the extra 8 hours, they could accrue overtime on the other 4 days.
Yeah,
That's how.
and you can't just say, well, you don't work Mondays, it falls on a Monday, so you just don't get that holiday.
you can't,
We got
the person
yeah,
that
we got
lost these days, they get full-time employee, you get. paid
Maybe they could.
11 holidays.
Yeah, they're
They're
not gonna.
You can't pay half the employees a holiday, and the other half you don't have to pay them because they don't work on that day. If they're a full-time employee, that's usually what happens.
Same as like Thanksgiving.
Correct. And like I said, the day after Thanksgiving is one that we give the option for choosing to work. Somebody there to be able to do that. But again, to cover even vacation.
What if we were just closed on Tuesday
That
that
week,
week?
yeah,
Everybody gets the day off.
That would be,
You don't have a mess of
Wait a
stuff
minute,
to do with the
hold on,
rest of the.
that would.
Alan, what's your phone number?
Businesses on holidays are closed, so for you, your business holiday day closed would be Tuesday, because you're not open Sunday and Monday.
That would be a fiasco.
I mean, it would be, but you have a calendar, you have the dates, you put up signage, you put it out, just like any other. People expect you to be closed on Christmas, people expect you to be closed on New Year's.
Holidays are on Mondays,
yeah, that's true,
Right,
so then.
probably
The
not,
biggest thing was to make sure that, and again, if I take a day off, if I take vacation, then everybody gets punished. And it's the same way with me, so when.
Well, this
when
is the way
Dave
to
just took a
fix that.
vacation, Alan just took a vacation a couple of weeks ago, I get to work 60 hours because.
so did you
see,
say
this is a way
But I
to
get
fix
paid
that,
salary,
though,
so
you
it's
know?
fine for me, but if they wanna do it, if I'm on, they should get paid because they're replacing during that day.
Close it on Tuesday, that's my suggestion.
Maybe this leads into,
Those are all Wednesday.
maybe this leads into my overall thought of, has anyone thought about the hours of operation for the transfer station and the recycling? Just, I mean, you're operating 50 hours a week. And from like December to now, it's dark at, well, not now, like this, for the entire winter, it's dark at 4:30. You can't tell me that place sees nearly anybody from 4:30 to 6. Like Tuesday through Thursday. So could you change your hours of operations in the wintertime to operate 40 hours and
Wednesday through Saturday, whatever.
whatever it might be?
I mean, you can, but.
Like, I don't think we need. It just seems silly to be operating in the dead of the winter that late into the evening
Well,
On Wednesday.
during the week.
Well, you'd be.
And there is a safety,
It is safety.
safety issue, it's like
And you-
-20 degrees up there, like that's
It's the
that's
same way on
insane,
a
so.
holiday.
You could easily do a time study and find out the number of people coming, and it's probably not worth it.
Right, so I mean, that's part of this whole thing, you say that we need. You mentioned that we
Yeah,
need,
for manpower.
we're supposed to have 5 people up there at all times.
Yes.
I'd like to see where that's written and where that's stipulated and where we are obligated to do that. I don't necessarily know if that's,
It is, it's a DEP license requirement.
well, according, no, I don't, yeah. I guess I'd like to see where it says that. Because previous town manager said that he could never find anything that said that. But that's kind of beside the point, so like, but overall hours of operation, I think. You could maybe save some. Maybe not, I just think there should be better hours of operation in general,
You just go to a 4-day work week.
or. You know, I'd rather see it open Saturday, Sunday than some of the other weeks, but that's where you'd have to have rotating schedules and then somebody gets stuck with
I know
weekends
a
and.
lot of community members would like Sunday. I
Yeah,
hear it a lot.
you just have, I mean, you have to rotate the schedules properly so that people aren't stuck working all week.
Yeah.
On
We used to
weeks,
be open on Sunday.
Yeah, and that'll never be again, because if it is, I'll be the first one done, I'll tell you, we got more people on Sunday in 4 hours. Than we did during the week, and it was total chaos, it'd take us Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to clean up the mess that people left us on Sunday.
I know, but it's,
I mean, I think that tells you something,
I was gonna say,
it tells you that's when they want it to be
But the
open.
problem is when you get people that you gotta say you're family friendly. And you want people to take time off, and you got people exorbitant amount of time they can't because they're shorthanded. And then you got people working every weekend when their kids and wife are home, and then
That's,
they got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off as part of that scheduling thing, but you're not gonna make everybody happy, but it makes it tough, it really does.
and I'm not saying it's not difficult, I'm just,
No,
I'm looking at different avenues of, like, we've done things a lot. And we've done things the same way for a long time. And it doesn't hurt to look at other options. And, you know, if we can get by with 3 people being there to operate properly with the DEP regulations, then that's something we should look into.
well, we have.
Hours of operation. I mean, even in the winter, if you do nothing else, I would just cut some hours out of the winter, like that's, in my opinion, is silly day.
I would just shave a day.
I wouldn't,
I would do it, I would have it.
And
open
again, it all boils down to
what
it
is
at the end of the day, services, and I agree.
I mean, you're open 50 hours a week, that's a lot.
Well, we used to be open 7 days.
And are you open
But-
the right 50 hours in a week?
That's
I don't
right,
think so.
that's what I'm saying, some of that stuff,
Right, like, we need to
So-
optimize, let's be as efficient as we can.
and I don't know
If you
if
can
it
get
really
creative with
cuts
the
anything out of the
scheduling.
budget overall, but it's something to think about, in my opinion.
Well, I think we should start by closing on Tuesday when Monday is a holiday.
Do you get commercial
Solve a
haulers?
bunch
in
of
on the
problems,
weekend?
just for that one thing.
What's that?
No,
No commercial haulers. on
I've
the
got,
weekend?
Bolster drops off a recycling can that has no other choice because it's full. But again, that's commercial, then you have to worry about commercial haulers, then we gotta change our rules on how we're gonna do stuff too.
Your commercial haulers have to find time during the week, because they don't usually run on the weekends, do they?
Correct.
So that's part of it, is what are the right hours?
Businesses during the
You
week.
need,
That's what,
When the
if
commercial
you're
hours,
open.
that's all part of it,
commercial
that's all.
only On like. One day a week, if you're open, like, so. If you're only accepting a commercial hauler, like say Tuesdays, say we cut a day out of the schedule. Right, and we have that many fewer hours working, do you have to have 3 people on staff to receive commercial hauling? Or is that just when it's open to the public coming in?
We have to probably, the licensing is we have to properly maintain all of our disposal areas. So.
But if
we
it's
got-
commercial hauling, they're bringing trucks in to dump, or is it commercial hauling for recycling that's coming in?
It's both.
So both, so you'd have to have staff at both, or do you have staff that can that have the skills to be in all the places?
Well, let's put it this way, with how our place is set up, there's supposed to be somebody maintaining both compactors all the time. To watch what gets thrown in there, then you gotta do the recycling of the building, so you're tying up another person, then somebody's gonna be way down over the hill with the wood piles open.
Well, no,
Somebody's-
I'm just saying, if you only accepted commercial haulers, the one particular day a week
You
instead of
can't,
being
because
open.
they have 560 customers, they can't, They can't run it,
They
they
have their
can't take
meeting,
it all off
their-
in one day.
Well,
So-
yeah, well, no, we're not gonna
Well,
change the hours of operations right now, so I
What,
guess.
what I'm hearing
but-
though on all of that is. Recycling costs us how much?
Yeah,
91,000? So it's a $65,000 problem.
is.
So 25,000 in revenue, $91,000 in expenses.
Oh, you're seeing that up front?
Yep.
Yeah. So,
It needs attention,
So
What's that?
it's a
it needs
60,
attention,
it's
yes.
a $66,000
No,
problem.
it's not, because you put that tonnage and throw it in the trash at $85 a ton, now you're gonna, it's gonna cost you. To get rid of it.
Yeah, that's the only other piece,
Your voice
is how much less money are we paying for to tip fees and stuff? But if we knew the tonnage, if we knew the recycled tonnages, then you could just do that math out and say, you know. 40 tons didn't get sent to a landfill
If
and
it's less than $66,000, you're losing money.
well, and are we still taking recycling and waste from other towns?
Recycling, yes, not waste.
How do you know Bolster's not taking trash from other towns and bringing it to you?
Because you don't bring as big trash trucks in there, they go direct to Orange Walk and they monitor it over there.
So only like the ones that come to you are just,
No, the split can.
are just local?
Yeah, local.
I just,
We're still, but we are still bringing, sorry, so we're still bringing recycling from other towns?
Well, certain towns are paying user fees to us to take their recycling, yes.
And has that been profitable for us? Including,
Is that profitable? I don't.
well, are we making money off it? Why would we take it?
Whatever their quarterly fees are, they pay them for the usage of the facility based on.
Is that in our revenue?
you only have 25,000 in revenue, that's what I'm saying, you got $66,000 loss
Well, another thing.
In
that's happened-
recycling, yeah.
in recycling.
Well, that's saying the sale of recycling. See, when Jacob was here, there used to be three, it's just like every revenue account, there's three different types of revenue. There's a sale of the recycling, there should be user fees, which are getting put over into the transfer station. Because there was 3 or 4 revenue lines in each one of these two accounts, and for some reason, they're all getting coded and put into one.
So they're going into the $100,000 for the transfer station.
Yeah, see, that's the
Probably.
problem.
probably.
Because there was,
I'm finding.
there were too many,
Is
the problem was that
doesn't
there was
always
like
line
3
up.
revenue accounts.
I'm trying to sort it out.
Yeah, so let's just lump those together to 125.
Yeah,
Well, kind of, I mean, that's kind of what, right, if you look at it that way. You know, you got 125 overall and you're spending
What's our contract with,
almost 600,000.
what's our bolsters contract? What do they pay us?
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm curious.
Where's it listed?
And is it enough?
Has it been,
I'm hearing this, I hear a little whisper every once in a while, maybe every other Saturday, that it's not enough.
well, let me tell you,
My dumpster.
I've come here,
Wait.
I've come in here 5 or 6 years in a row, we started charging a user fee of half of the tipping fee. Probably 7 or 8 years ago, they said we couldn't legally do it, we won a court battle and we could do that.
Wow,
We've talked about, raising that user fee to make revenue, yes, I think we should,
and
that's why.
is that proposed in this budget?
No, somebody's asked me to come up with anything.
I'd love to see it, let's make it happen.
The other thing is like, I run Canaan's program.
Yep.
They, I've talked about this before, if somebody's tearing down a barn or a garage, they contract with Bolster, the town doesn't pay any tipping fee, why should I be paying $6,000, because my neighbor's tearing down his 2-car garage and bringing it to me or charging it to the landfill.
Right.
Right,
There are more ways to do revenue in that line.
Well,
I agree, I think.
It's
we
the
should.
same way with shingles, I mean, if you wanna do the shingles on your roof, then you can contract out with Bolster, you can drop a dumpster and you can pay whatever the cost is, why am I paying?
Well, yeah,
Why am I paying $8,000 to get rid of your shingles, why am I
Right.
subsidizing?
That's right.
right,
And I mean,
pay to play.
Yeah, I think.
Pay to
I agree.
Well, yeah.
I agree.
There's other residents that go and collect everybody's trash and then bring it to the dump, it's like,
Well, I've been seeing that, I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah, I've
On
noticed.
Facebook, oh, if you guys get in there, I can haul stuff to the dump.
I
Yeah.
saw too, and they never hit it to our shop.
start putting a waste scale when they come in.
They're hauling trash down in Pittsfield, they have that waste haul, like, which is $100, by the way.
Put a waste scale at the entrance.
You're right,
Start
right, no,
paying.
I've seen that too.
But then they're gonna be
And so is
considered,
this.
they're gonna be considered a commercial agent, and we're gonna
Yeah,
start charging
yeah,
them just like we
and
do.
I think,
now.
yes, I think there's room
You're
to
right.
run there without punishing residents.
No, I know, I understand that, he's probably doing a good deed for people that
And again,
can't do it.
I think there was, like 3 or 4 revenue lines in recycling, there's 3 or 4 that were in transfer station, and Jacob wanted to consolidate them to get it just less revenue lines, less coding for the girls upstairs to have to deal with, so they've been putting money, coding money, and I said, one of the questions I had, they have user fees, and I said, where are you putting the sticker money? Well, put in user fees, well, that's supposed to be what we're making from towns, so I can understand what charge other towns based on usage. So if somebody asks me, one of you guys tell me how much revenue do we have from stickers, I can't tell them.
Well,
Tax like,
So and I just had that happen today, because one of the girls upstairs had a package, where does this go? Because obviously wherever I put it's gonna be wrong. Because it was a specific one, we did it, so. It's tough if you wanna do revenues, we should be breaking that out by contractor or by.
I think in a year, I think a year like this where I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just think a year like this where we're looking at a significant budget deficit. Looking at revenues is like one of the first items we need to look at. If we're underperforming revenues in these 2 categories, we gotta start.
Can't brush over it.
and you yourself think we need to change,
And I've been saying this
let's,
for like the last 3 or 4 years, I know it's tough, I
Well-
don't wanna assess fees on anybody, but. And I don't either, but at some point. You know, you see it, I'm sorry, but you got people that come in that have 2 or 3 people and they're coming in 4 days a week to the transfer station with 42 bags of trash. I
Right,
mean,
yeah,
and I come in with 1 bag a week. And you got other people that do that, and it's like, where is it coming from?
right,
They've got a sticker, they're obviously proved residency, but it just seems like it's kind of lopsided, so whatever I'm not using in my taxes is paying for everybody else to over abuse it.
the easiest way to watch that, this sounds stupid, but are the trash bags matching? Right, they come with-
Or tipping fees.
well, I'm saying, if
And
you
that's,
On
you
a
know,
scale.
unfortunately, one thing we're never gonna be able to control. We can negotiate and do whatever, but the tipping fees are gonna go up. And the contractual thing, and it's tough as they start running out of space for them.
right.
I'm never a proponent for, we've done it this way, so let's keep it.
Right.
Like, that's like my most hated
Right.
concept ever.
Do bags, but be prepared for this entire room and the hallway to be filled with people.
That's
And
all right.
that's the
It's
thing
the
about
quickest way to
service.
do it, is to do it with bags.
They can each grab a box on their way out.
It will be,
Oh,
Yeah, you gotta pay for the service, everything, once the service, when they go on.
It's nice.
I just think it needs to be assessed and evaluated. And
I know a lot of towns, Canaan has done, they've kind
Go with
of
that.
slopped away from the.
All right,
recycling
Well,
program.
I'm gonna start calling the clouds, so the waste will go down.
it's getting late, but we will continue on the transfer station. So what, anything else in here? I think hours of operation and some of that could
so assess
possibly,
hours of operation.
I think so.
Assess
Assess your fees.
commercial.
That's number 1, fees.
Fees.
Hours of operation, you can put on a little bit of a back burner, but
And the fees we can change
that just
by
needs to be.
order, we can issue an order, we did that a few years ago.
Yeah,
We did it like maybe it was right before the pandemic,
Yes.
2019
Yeah.
was the last time we assessed
Um,
user fees.
So fees will be in your revenue line, though, that goes down, that's gonna go down here.
sure, but it'll at least offset something.
Absolutely, I'm just, commercial user fees is what we're doing.
And I think that's a good way, and it's basically a fair way to do the assess stuff too.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, look, we're getting ready to hand a tax bill to the residences. So, right,
I
so we don't wanna keep adding.
Right,
had a question on 1020 diesel,
Yes.
what's that going up so much for? We've never spent over like 12,000, we're up to like 17. 2024 actual was less than 10. We're at like $730 right now. So I just,
All over the
You
place.
want me to tell you what that is too?
Yes,
yeah, I would
I
like
think
that.
that's a transcribing, and I think that's a coding thing again, because it's weird, that I've seen that where we're supposed to use, I only use
page
$1,000
26,
diesel
line
a month.
1020.
And then the next time I get a report, it says I use $6,000, I spent $6,000, and it's like, I don't get it, how did I use $5,000 worth of diesel?
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
Are you pulling it all from the same pump over at your public works?
Yes, and
So
we
then
dip it,
how
we
would you
take it.
ever break that up?
They do, they have keys,
Alright,
we have keys for each department.
I'm jumping
you
ahead,
do it by that number
I'm
and
jumping ahead,
Thing
we go to a Wex card.
right.
I mean, that's the only way you can get it right. That's the only way you get this right. Goes by truck number, user number on a Wex card,
Pull those tanks out, call it a day.
done with it.
Alright, so you think
So
that's
you
just,
track
you, yeah, you
I mean,
think,
that's, it's the same way we're doing like a credit card, or when we buy general supplies, you know exactly where it goes to, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, to my-
One bill.
to my
one-
point
one bill
is-
to pay.
we've never spent more than
15,000 in 2002.
Yeah, I
in
think,
2022, but that was when shit was,
put it at 10.
stuff was through the roof.
We're on track to spend about 1,400 this year.
I mean, I think that should be down.
So-
There's no way, there's no way, I know I've spent, he goes up every,
So it's tough
he
somewhere
puts
else.
about 80 gallons in every.
I mean, do you think that should,
Because he's going back and forth to Norwich Walk, so it's not like, that's.
Price is going down, right?
Close.
kinda, ish,
It is, but.
or let's say it stayed where it was,
Next
Diesel,
week.
diesel,
it's no different than what it was in 2023 or 2024.
you gotta be careful with diesel, 80% of refined fuel is coming from Canada.
Right,
In New England,
Yeah.
and depending on what's getting ready to happen, we
right,
could see
problems.
us upside down. So I'm cautious on that line, but I think we could drop it to like 12.
Well, that's kind of,
Based on
I think
our
it's
historical,
2020.
save some five grand.
Well, 22 was 15.
2023.
2022 was insane.
There was a
2022
year
was
there that
$6
was super
a gallon.
expensive.
It was $5 a gallon for gas.
That was that was 2 months after I bought my diesel truck, it
Yeah.
went to $6 a gallon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
From 1 year to the next, it went from the cheapest we'd ever had it to the most expensive we'd ever had it.
It was between.
so are we
21 and
comfortable
22.
backing that down a little bit? I feel like I am.
I'd say, I mean, down to 12, I'd be
Yeah.
comfortable with 12.
Are you comfortable with 12, Donnie? For a year?
I don't wanna be, I'd be a little bit more cautious.
I'd say 14,
Yeah.
because
I mean, if you.
it's like in between the 15 and the 12.
I mean, you can cut it down, I would say you can cut it down based on this, but I just get wary about it, cause I've seen the same thing, the fire department, all of a sudden, they've only used $50 worth of diesel, or, you know, and the next thing you're looking at. Way out,
It's like, are these-
how in 1 month did it go up $5,000?
Are they backed up on,
I know when we get, depends on obviously when we get deliveries too,
Well-
we get the delivery in.
Or back here, public works, and where are they sitting at on diesel? If you go to your highway, 'cause I mean, it's gonna be billed,
somewhere?
yeah. That's-
So it goes to the highway tank and then they go down and pull out of it, Barney?
Theirs
Yeah.
is at 28,000. Well, their budget,
No, not the budget.
insane, their 2025's budget was 16. and
No,
their-
year to date, did the year to date one.
That's what I'm
Where-
about to say,
where-
2,400.
Where is it?
400.
2400,
21.
page 21.
Mm,
But you only had $16,000 in the budget for 2025.
No, that's, who delivers your diesel?
That's a 6-month budget though.
20,000 and 21,000.
How often do they bill you? You've got a 2-month.
Year to date, we've only spent like 3
I think
grand.
whenever they don't bill us.
It's so weird.
So
How does that even make sense?
and that's what size tank?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's,
Running on ferry dock?
Jason. Jason, it's a 10,000 gallon tank and they don't bill until they fill. That could be sitting there with 150 gallons in the bottom and we're getting ready to stare down the barrel of a $15,000 bill, $20,000 bill. So that's the problem with diesel. This way you can't,
Yeah, see, that's why I'm saying.
Wex card,
Well, but I'm not just looking at the year to date, I'm looking back at the actuals for,
yeah, no, I got it.
for year end, you know,
Can
like,
we just Take
But
a step back.
anyway.
You said that you call them,
loose.
Donnie, to fill it, or they
Yeah.
come automatically to fill?
No, I call them when we get, we stick the tank, every.
So why aren't we hedging our bets against wild increases in costs? If we know that right now it's not so bad and we're not sure what's gonna be happening?
Fill that.
Why are we not like keeping
Craig.
that at least 75%?
When it comes to winter blend and summer blend, you don't wanna fill your tank.
Well, I understand
Get
the
ahead with
difference
summer
in
blend and
that
not
and
use it.
stuff, you know, but at the same time, I feel like we know things are gonna be very unsettled through the summer. And that we should be keeping up on that.
Yeah,
I think you hedge. I think you hedge in your budgeted dollars, not in your delivery of fuel. You can be upside down in a heartbeat holding.
Alright,
I think,
let's not, I mean, I think we can just,
If you cut that down to
I mean,
15,
it's-
I think we'd be all right.
yeah.
I really do. I think we
I
got
put
that.
14 down, that's what
Me too.
Heather suggested, yeah, I like 14. And this just, again,
I mean, it's,
brings up that topic, and we should have talked about it during highway, but is the truck numbering system.
mhm.
For your
yeah, that's
maintenance
super
tracking
important,
and for your,
gas track.
so that we're not, I mean, like, when I'm paying bills, to see blue Ford tells me nothing.
Mhm.
Right, and how do you know what trucks cost you 20 grand and what trucks cost you 4 grand?
Right,
Without Tina going and looking at paper.
which. This kind of leads into the next one, motor vehicle maintenance. What does the, oh, that's the hauling truck.
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
kind of.
$21,000.
It cost you 23 grand in 2024, it's already cost you almost 8.
How many miles are on
What's
that
the
truck?
issue with this, that guy?
Well, the problem is it runs every day. I think it's got 150 or 60,000 miles.
Yeah.
So every day to Norwalk, so you're 50 miles a day, right?
Sometimes times two.
Roughly.
Times two.
So 100 miles a day.
It's to Norwalk, it's like 20 miles to Norwalk
Yeah.
and 20 miles
Thir-
back. We're talking
38
50 miles a
So
trip.
That's what I
That's what
said,
it
yeah,
is.
38, yeah, it said 50 and then a double to 100, so
Yeah,
100 miles a day, even on the high side, that's 26. Just work weekdays, cause you only go 5 days a week, right?
Yeah, and then we do.
So it's 200, that's 260.
4 days a week, cause they're not going Saturdays, are you?
No,
But and they don't run Monday,
sometimes
so
we have. to.
call it, so 260, so 26,000 miles a year. Preventative maintenance, routine maintenance is $1,500 times 3, cause you do it every 10,000 on a truck like that. So
How old's that truck?
2017, with the last one we had 20 years, we were spending $60,000 even going, so this one's gonna replace it every 10 or 12. That's what we figured out for longevity.
Your maintenance cost is more than if you were leasing the damn thing.
You're upside down, that
Yeah.
doesn't make sense, you are upside down on that truck.
And you gotta, the tires guy, you guys go in the landfill, they're not driving over trash and stuff, so I bet 4,000 is tires.
It all goes into that whole assessment of what we're taking in
We need a rotation.
Can bolsters haul
and every Tom, Dick and
can
Harry.
bolsters haul that for us? As part of an offset to what they're dumping.
We've tried to do that in the past and it costs, again, they're paying full price for diesel, they're paying full price for parts and stuff, and there's.
But if we're looking at doubling their dumping fees or whatever, say, hey, offset this,
Yeah,
haul our trash, save us 21,000 a year.
and we get rid of the truck.
And we get rid of the truck, we get rid of the maintenance.
You don't have to replace it.
Well, the truck only doesn't do that, it does recycling, then you've gotta do demo, so that's based on 250 trips a year, so you figure.
Well, that's,
250 trips a year.
but that's what I figured, 100 miles, 26,000 miles, 25,000 miles.
Right.
So, but still, that's only 3 PMs, I don't understand, $4,500, I mean, you're telling me that thing's gonna break down. So, so,
Have you guys bought parts for commercial trucks?
oh yeah, I do it every day,
I know.
I do it every day.
No,
I'm just figuring, but those are on trucks that, I'm doing it on trucks that take the worst roads you've ever imagined, not straight up and down Route 2 to Norwalk.
Yeah,
I can't imagine, we do 2 sets of tires a year,
Well,
that's
I do that
6
truck.
grand.
But they're driving, he loses a ton of tires, he's driving over stuff over the landfill, sharp pieces of, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. It's not like he's packed right over the perk.
Is it worth checking with bolsters to see what the price is?
I think it is. I'd love to see what they'd offer us for a contract, but
You're gonna, lose service, but
What's that?
I can ask him.
What'd you say?
I said, because once he gets in here, you're gonna find out, it's just like everybody else.
What?
When it comes to contract, once you ain't got the vehicle, you're gonna pay what he's gonna want, because then you're gonna be able to $200,000 piece of equipment.
I mean, I just would love to see I would love to see the number. I'd love to see the
Is
number.
Bolster the only,
Well, you got Pine Tree, you've got some other ones, but again,
is the waste management?
if I
see
got
those
those
on it?
containers and I got 42 people out there and I call Pine Tree and they're off doing.
So Pine Tree's will sell.
a bolster or one of those, and it's gonna be 2.5, 3 hours, do I go close the gate or do I just, because we can't accept.
Well, let's just, yeah, I mean, just looking at the maintenance.
But if you keep the truck and use it just for shuffling around the yard, your maintenance bill goes to zero. I mean, you do one PM a year for $1,500 and call it a day.
I'd like to, what have we replaced in the last 2 to 3 years? I mean, you spent 40 grand in 2 years for. No, almost 50 grand in 2 years.
I mean, that's a lease payment on a brand new truck. I mean, that's,
I'd like to see the I'd like to see the bills for the,
with a
For that
warranty
truck.
for 5 years, flip it over, I'm paying $17,000 a year for a $260,000 truck, but that's fully fitted.
How old is this vehicle, Don?
It's a 2017,
17.
it's 8 years old. And drives more miles than any of the other vehicles, it's not.
How many miles?
Yeah, but that's nothing for one of those.
It's like
It's
150.
140 something, 150 something thousand miles,
It's nothing for a truck like that, though.
So for 2017, we bought that new.
but it's hauling 18-ton containers over roads going over the landfill, it's not like it's.
That's what all those trucks do.
But we're you're 150,000 times 8 years, 7 years. So that's 20,000 a year.
Mhm.
I just,
Mm. Well,
So it costs, so if it's $20,000 is your like depreciated cost over time, right? You're talking about that. Plus, say it is $21,000 next year. So it costs you $41,000 to get rid of and haul all the trash. Do you honestly think that we would get a contract with Bolsters for less than that? Plus your driver
but we're
cost.
getting ready to increase their cost. We're gonna look at increasing their cost potentially, because we're not charging them enough.
and
So
you
is that gonna be offset by what our increases will be?
can
We don't
downsize a
haul any
worker.
of their stuff.
No, I think we should, I think that they're dumping in our facility for way cheaper.
Oh, I agree.
That, so I'm
I've been saying for years,
saying,
increase our cost.
we need to
But
increase
what I'm
that.
saying is that
Right,
they,
I see what you're saying.
You're losing a lot of freedom and flexibility of operations, that's. the biggest-
Understood.
That's probably the biggest thing, because we've always had our opportunity.
right, but I mean, we gotta look into it. I mean, that's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, and that's, 2024 was 24,000.
When I have a
Year
truck,
before was 18.
when I have a truck that's at 20,000 a year, that's time to
Yeah,
swap
that's
that
just,
truck out.
right,
It's time to
yeah.
turn it over.
and Donnie, this is just for that truck, it's not for the,
It's like when you break.
skid steery thing that you have there and the other
No, I mean,
equipment.
if you break, the motor vehicle maintenance, we've been putting money into the backhoe too, that comes out of that.
That comes in there too, so it's not, so what we
Well, wouldn't
actually
that be
need
under
to know is,
equipment?
like, this
No, it's not.
21,000 is not
Should be.
just for
Not
the
a motor
truck,
vehicle.
it's for the backhoe as well.
See, again, that's,
It's a motor vehicle, it's under motor vehicle.
but see, I would have thought I
Okay,
should have
so
gone
we
under.
should have,
equipment.
so we should have like I think we need to straighten out a few things in our accounting processes
Yeah,
upstairs.
we've identified
It
that.
really sounds like a lot of things are not being coded correctly, which makes this part of things very.
Coded it
So
all.
your equipment's more your compactors and stuff like that, that's what you're considering your equipment.
Non-mobile.
Non-mobile.
Correct, non-mobile, anything that's mobile.
So your forklift is part of this? The motor vehicle?
So all the numbers
Yes,
you're working on
actually, your forklift, the motor vehicle it's in the, it should be written in title,
That's a recycling.
Recycling, okay.
I think. No, it's actually.
Yep, no, it's on
repair, 35.
recycling, yeah,
Okay, yeah.
fourth budget.
So that's separate, so that's not included. So this is just the truck and the excavator that you use
Goes down
for
on the back.
switching,
Back,
backhoe for switching and cleaning and.
All right,
It's really hard to say,
Yeah.
anything,
you know,
I can't say anything right now.
it's,
Like I know we just did.
We don't know what's-
Big tire that was like. $1,400 for that tire, so it got a piece of steel in it.
right, do you remember,
Made on the
so
back tire machine.
looking at the motor vehicle cost last year, it was almost 24,000. The year, which was double what the budget was, the year before was 18,000 in 2023. And then it was 9,000, so it looks like two big things happened in 2023 and 2024.
Yeah, we had
You had major repairs that were much more than what were budgeted.
It looks like we're anticipating another one.
Well, and I ECU, I think one of those last year was ECU.
If you've gotten away so far without doing anything on the exhaust system, that's coming. That's a
Yeah, I think
$15,000.
we've had an exhaust fix, we've had that little stuff where because of the road.
I just put 25,000 in a
I
desk.
also remember the hoist that lifts up those cans, the cable, when they snap the cables, $1,000-1,200.
Yeah.
Hydraulic issues. with-
Alright.
So can you do a little research, Jack, on what those expenses actually have been, so that we can kind of narrow down a little bit as to.
Yeah, I can look at the detail and sometimes I see little descriptions, you know, that go with the amount and sometimes I just see an amount. And so, but I can dig in and see whatever's there.
But we should have the physical copies of all of the actual bills and they
Oh,
should be able
jeez.
to find them.
Never gonna find those.
Or-
Yeah, and we can pull them. It's just trying to work that in with the other things.
Oh, no, I totally, it's a huge thing, but it's, I mean,
The information, I
not having.
I think the key is, from this point on. There needs to be a number system and every bill that comes in needs to be tracked to that number. And then you can just go from there.
And that number.
Going backwards is gonna be tough, I know it makes sense to do it and you can certainly try, but I don't have much.
Well, I'm not saying
faith
do it
in
on
that.
everything, but when there's like.
No, I
this is
know,
like a
yeah,
major thing
but
that we
your
wanna figure
system
out.
is what we need to do. Cause that's,
Well, the backhoe needs a number, the truck needs a number,
every piece of equipment that this town owns should have a number.
should have a truck number, cause then he can put it in the spreadsheet, and this helps tell your story.
Right.
When
What
you-
doesn't hurt.
when you
What the
say-
hell does it matter?
I agree.
When you say the blue form needs to be replaced, we have no history to back it up, but if you say truck number
Well.
27.
International, I hear them say that, oh, I got the international, which one is it? Is it the yellow or the red?
That's right.
One's a 14, one's an 08. So if something's
Right,
08, we're not gonna put, I'm not gonna put $22,000 in something.
I got truck number 35. Oh, okay.
Well, and if truck 35 just
It's
costs
yellow
35
international.
grand this year,
Then-
then that's the one that's rolling out of here, right?
And that's the one that needs to be replaced.
That's right, and that just does, that helps you do your
It
job.
helps us all do
I
our
agree.
job.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jack's gonna
So simple.
look into that the best we can.
You'll have that ready
Not
for next year's budget, right?
Pretty much.
I start right now.
No, you start right now.
Seven's gonna look good.
But, that's- all right, moving down from there.
Building plant, the only thing I saw, but what do we got there?
Just, obviously in the contract services, MSW of 185,000, that's somebody hauling waste for you.
No, that's just your tipping fee, that's 2,200 ton of material at 80, whatever, if you're 250 a ton.
And that's a
That's
normal.
the garbage, that's just your garbage, that's how
Yeah.
much it costs to throw away.
Okay. So there, yeah, so that's the number we need to like try to offset to some extent, right?
Want people to throw
Yeah,
it.
okay, and we'd love to do that, at least if it
I mean, that's-
overviews it, we're gonna charge.
Well, that's what I'm, but you want to
We're gonna
offset your
make-
tipping fees.
Yeah.
That's just,
Right.
the whole thing is about offsetting your cost.
Absolutely.
So if you can offset 185 grand, then we'll be aces. But yeah, that was my, cause it did, I mean, we're at almost 300,000. We've never been more than 240. The $60,000 increase, is that all for tipping?
Yeah, it's.
Is that all tipping fees?
It's an increase in contractual cost, basically, when it goes out there, when they go up 350 or 450 a ton, in the contract that we have with them, it's not much to do on it.
Yeah.
And that's,
Only thing we can do
that's direct, like if I was to look at that directly, that would,
Right out, yeah.
you could see it right out.
Yeah, and that's, and again, it's hard to say.
that answer.
And here comes the other thing about monitoring stuff, you know, if we got three guys. That are down baling cardwood for 2 hours and people are throwing rocks into the compactor. They just threw, you know, 3 tons of rocks in there, you're paying $84
No, I just-
a pound. Or whatever it is in the car.
Is that easy to make?
How much is a
No, I
scale?
just wondered.
Drive over scale?
Don't even know.
Curious, what's one-
They're expensive and
Last year's.
we talked about what pay to throw a paper bag and weighing stuff.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
I didn't do it as an enterprise account, but this place got full and people were threatening to end in the town square and everybody else.
So I asked about
I think
scale,
that's a
drive
fair
over scale.
system.
Right,
You pay for the amount you don't.
that's right.
I
You,
don't,
We had that in our community in New York, and
pretty expensive.
it's a pain in the ass. I don't know what the expenses were, but I was just a consumer there.
I mean, it's gonna be
Huge
cheaper.
pain in
than-
the ass if you have 2 bags, like if you drove up with 2 bags of trash in your trunk, you had to drive on the scale, you had to go dump, you had to drive on the scale again and then go pay your ticket that day. And it would be like $14,
Yep.
you know, for 2 bags of trash, cause they did it just by
Yeah.
weight.
yeah,
At the same
that's why I
time,
grew up to
you
that.
know, it's that and the bag system where you buy the bags from the municipality. Those are all like the fairest, I don't like them.
He
Right.
wants
Yeah, it's
extra.
Pete's out on that. Which-
Fairest way to distribute the cost of getting rid of trash. It encourages people to recycle because recycling is exempt from that. It encourages people to compost because, you
I
know,
mean-
that's heavy stuff. Organics is
Yeah.
heavy.
I
and
mean,
we
I'm
talked
gonna
about it
play devil's
before.
advocate. I mean, I pay taxes in this town, I'll throw away what I want.
Well,
Like,
that's fine. but-
that's what my taxes, that's what I'm paying in taxes, right? That's what somebody's gonna say,
Yeah.
whether
I'm
I,
trying to drop your tax bill.
that's, I agree with that.
Right, right, I'm trying to reduce.
Well,
your
we're
tax
trying
bill.
to, yeah, we're trying to be
Because
fair,
you never-
we're trying to be fair to everybody.
You
'Cause I
bring
throw
2 bags a
one,
week.
every
I dump a
two
half a
weeks.
house a week,
2 weeks.
right, because I'm a contractor and I
Right,
just
right.
tore down somebody's shed every week,
That's
and I
right.
dump that now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cause I live in this town.
Which, to Eric's point, Eric's not here, but he said, you pay to play, so whatever that means, that's what it is.
I just think sometimes there are good investments.
I think overall, the general thing is,
We're not gonna fix it tonight, but
but it needs to be analyzed and looked into, and so the
it stops bringing your neighbors.
contract services 2505 is kind of the,
Well,
got the same issue.
You know, you can still be that good neighbor and bring somebody's trash, with them as long as it's in the right bag.
That's right.
But, yeah, so these contract and rentals and the,
Now you're sitting next to me when we keep saying bags.
Waiting for him to say wax out. He's like that quiet guy that goes boom every once in a while.
pretty much.
Gonna throw a blue bag of trash at you.
You know what happens in towns that have bags, that pay by bags?
I don't know how
My
much.
property gets trash all in the ditches.
You get property, you get
Instead of the
trash all
dumping.
over.
Well, we still got recycling. We got through
I
much
don't
of
get
that.
trash.
All right, let's go. Focus, Craig, let's go. It is getting late. Jacksonville, long ride home, let's go.
I gotta go.
Me too.
And I gotta-
So, anything else on? Transfer station recycling?
Recycling as well.
No, but, I didn't have much highlighted, but
Well, under general, I had a question about the 5,000, that's a pretty significant increase under general.
So that one there,
we went to recycling 5,000,
so
1005 general.
for whatever reason.
No, sorry. Didn't-
We had some charges that I split out to general, so the baling wire
Mhm.
by itself was like between 2 and 3 grand, I think, for baling wire.
Yeah, and then the other expense to that
And then-
is propane for the forklift.
Where has it hit before?
It was hitting,
They were coding it wrong, they were coding my propane to the transfer station trash.
Hold on,
the 2024 actual on 1505
Mhm.
was 4165.
Okay,
yeah.
And so up in 1005, that's supposed to cover the baling wire, which is the biggest cost of that, which is more than half of that 5.
Okay,
And then down here, looking at where we would charge forklift repair, box show tires and baler repairs.
10:05.
Yeah,
15:05.
15:05. Then.
Used
I
to
just
be,
tried to-
used to be baling wire in there, but it shouldn't have been.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
took that out, I got it out of there.
Right.
okay, got it, thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense. I had that highlighted as well. That was quite a jump. So were people good, I guess I wanna wrap up, the transfer station, was everybody down up there or
I think we have some things that are gonna come back,
not?
right?
Right, there are.
Dumpster repairs, I had a question on that. 15,000 for dumpster repairs up in the
Oh, yeah, I
contract
see
and
it.
rentals. Didn't we just do like
Brand
all
new
new
dumpster.
boxes?
We did new king.
We bought 3, we have like a trash compactor ones, you have to have 2, and you have to have 2 spares for swap.
Yep.
Right,
And it's the same way, you got a metal, you got a OBW, you got a shingle can, so you have to, we have, I think altogether, we have like 12 can. We used to have 12 can, I think we got 8 now, but we have to keep them in repair, even the old ones, if they're on site, they got a hole in them. It's either that, I don't think at this point, we should be the dumpsters. I'd rather do a patch here and there, and keep them for 15 years than I would go and buy one for 12 or 15,000.
Right.
Steel.
Yeah, no, I got
Only
you. I
do
just,
what
well, you
the
should
D-
keep,
what the DEP mandates us to do, they kind
Oh,
of
okay.
keep up on us and say, okay, that one's getting to a point where you probably ought to think about replacing.
and then you budget it for that
Budget,
next season.
replace it, so,
Okay.
Do you send those out for repair, or do you have somebody a mobile welder come in to do it?
Which does some, AJ Fab used to do some, I use whoever's giving me the best price and you can get it done and get it in and get it out. Sherman's actually done some for us, there's been a couple of times and they've had some slow times and just got some
Yeah,
dumpsters that need fixing, we'll do them, get in the air.
Any students they need to
Okay.
train?
That's what they did the last time, I think they charged me like $60 an hour or whatever, and I think it cost me like 2,200, they did for the menacing one that had just little holes everywhere for them to be able to do that, yeah. Yeah, I do.
That's a good program.
do you have another question on that, Craig?
no, I jumped down to the wages on recycling, so that's my next question.
All right, is everybody else good with transfer, with the exception of
Yeah.
fees and all that happy stuff that folks will look into? Okay. All right, recycling,
Wages, I just see a 20% increase over last year's spend. Is that because we're shorthanded or?
No, it's because we didn't have anybody, we only had somebody who were running with 3 people instead of well, 1 in the recycling, and we had a part-time, Jim Allen was coming in filling in for 15 hours a week, we didn't have that position filled until late. So we actually didn't have.
so you got two recycling.
So that's 2
That's
spends,
what it will reflect, the 2 recycling.
2 full-time,
Before
okay.
we didn't do it
Yeah.
because we went almost a whole year without somebody,
Okay,
And none of
The-
your wages are in there?
no. Nothing for me comes out of recycling. That's only,
all right,
yeah.
And there's no supervisor at the
Well,
recycling?
Dave is the foreman and he actually comes, his pay comes out of recycling.
So there's a foreman and 1 attendant? Or there's a foreman and 2 attendants?
There's a foreman and a general labor and recycling, and then we have to have 2 attendants at the transfer station, these obviously falling as one, and then the truck driver.
I think other than the fact of those recycling make sense. That's the only question I had.
Which is
Jack
the
was gonna
same
look
as-
into that, yeah.
does transfer station make sense?
Yeah.
Like, does it all make sense?
Recycling specifically though, I just think it
Yeah.
costs us a lot of money to do that. I bet
Right.
you're not gonna increase your tipping fee $66,000.
And if we're taking anything from other towns, that better be offset
Yeah,
more than just breaking even, because it's costing you labor hours, it's costing you.
But the labor's there no matter what, and if they're there and they're processing stuff that's
So
coming
they're no matter
in.
what, but they're not taking their time.
But the other
dedicated.
town's not paying them, we are, so.
Right, no, I'm
they-
saying the tipping fees coming, or the fees
Yeah,
coming in
right.
for people, for us to do other people's recycling,
Yeah,
need to cover.
Hmm,
but not only that, one of them
That.
recycling
Right.
guys too, you remember, we got 4 disposal areas, so one of them, even with 2 attendants, we couldn't hold. We can't be everywhere at once.
right.
Yeah,
So one of those ones that's in recycling is a laborer, but he's also expected to run down the wood pile and run over the other
So-
too, so.
The wood pile, like that's roped off.
Yeah.
And it's not open access, they have to like tell somebody they need to go down there. So
No,
that you
it's-
don't
it's
have to
open this
have-
Time of the year, we open it up, they're supposed to slow down and see attendant, but some of them will zoom. right
So-
by.
Put a rope across,
Yeah,
it's closed
and then
until
they
you
go down
check in
and
with an
open it up,
attendant.
turn around to bail something. or
right,
they-
yeah.
Yeah,
And then you gotta remember that down around the back corner is the pit where we do the mason area and all the inert material, so people like to go down there and throw whatever they can, and then. And that's one of the things is monitoring is huge for us, because we're on that landfill. They'll find any excuse and close us down, and then what we're gonna do, we're gonna end up paying $400,000 set aside the road for somebody to. Pay the difference between the curbside, so. That's one of the.
That's a little cheaper.
Sign us off.
It's probably close to,
Wait.
it probably costs $400,000 to have a truck.
Yeah, no, I
You got 1,800 places you have to pick up, then you're still paying the tipping fee.
Donnie,
Yes.
can you get us a quote on what it would be to have service, because I know. Like, maybe 12 years ago, you had said that we only had a certain number of years that we would be able to operate there.
Yes.
And so that day is coming, and we should have a realistic idea of what that looks like for recycling town, and I'm talking townwide, recycling service and trash pickup. What that would cost.
You want the number, I'll give it to you. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
do it.
let me get it, we're
I
looking-
just saw Winslow the other day, I was talking with him and I went.
Well, let's
I
look
was
at
passed
things to
out.
be
I'm like,
well
oh my
informed
God, are you
about what all
serious?
the options are.
Yeah, I like to see all the options too.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I mean, cause I know when we had town recycling. It was over $16,000 or $18,000 a year just for like downtown recycling. And that's one way that we cut the budget one year, it's cause I actually said like, why is it only available to people that live in town, which are closer than entire, like, District 4, which I was representing at the time, you know, the further you live away. You had to take trash, but the closer you live, you didn't. But like, what does that look like if we're looking at all these different options? Just so people understand.
Cause I know that. I'm trying to think of the number was last year, but. Sullivan's went out of business and they were doing Palmyra as curbside. And it went from. I think it was 120 to 300 when they went to Bolster, and they went, what the heck? Detroit just went through the same thing, they were paying. Bolster. 38 or 48 or something, he went up to 90, and they told him that they'd go find somebody else because he tried to replace. Yeah, it's expensive. It is expensive.
Well, it might not make the tax bill look so bad if we present them with that.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's definitely.
You can do it this way, or you can do it that way,
I will get quotes from.
or you can buy bags.
I know it's expensive.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Good on, everybody good on recycling for the moment?
Yeah.
And Jack and Donnie will look into a few things. While we're right here, we'll shoot down to theater, that should be a quick hitter, 30, well, page
Do theater first.
35, we were close to 35, so that's what it was. Page 35. I didn't have any issues,
So,
but
so
We just not have a bill for the year.
make it a revenue one, sell it.
Yeah.
anything on the budget?
So the community programs,
Okay, we are.
36.
Starts on the bottom of 35.
Yeah,
What is that?
it's a
It's
theater.
a theater.
Community programs, what is the expense?
No, that's how.
It's a general category that has rec, library and theater.
Thank you, okay, so I keep missing that, so I thought this was a separate line, thank you. I'm not, it's not clear to me where everything is. pending,
So
apparently.
the way it's set up is the first thing is a department, then it's a division, so the way this is, the department is community programs, and you have a rec division, library division,
Okay.
theater division.
Kind of like public works. like
I've had
cemeteries building and out.
So this,
Right.
yeah,
It would be clear if each new division started on a new page.
Yeah,
well, that's why I was like.
that is a little more helpful.
Yeah, yeah, but, yeah, it works for Donnie because it's all together, but for here,
Yeah.
you gotta break the divisions out.
Yeah, so then, no questions about it.
Highlighters, you gotta highlight the header or something, but anyway.
I can
Any,
find the header, I can't find where things end,
oh, well, yeah, sure,
alright.
where the header starts.
The insurance, where's the insurance line?
So we don't parcel it out, so
Town
it's gonna be,
insurance.
when you go to like general government insurance, property casualty, it's all
All
in there.
lumped there, cause wasn't that a concern 2 years ago?
That's what somebody had said, wasn't an
Okay,
issue.
that, I guess I missed where.
So it's not insured and the,
No, it's a sure.
Oh, it is.
it is insured, and the cost to us per year is $7,500.
Where's that?
No, total for everything,
Total
in the
for-
The
utility,
theaters, 14.
Mostly,
14.5.
In electrical, heating and contracted services for like roof repairs or electrical work or whatever else is as needed.
Okay.
Shoveling the roof is
Something's
usually in there.
missing, because there's no way that we didn't have any actual costs for the theater in 2024.
No, we didn't,
Contracts,
57.93.
contracts and rentals, it says 0. for
We didn't have
actual.
roof issues.
We didn't.
Yeah, we didn't. 57.93.
They didn't shovel the roof that
Not
year.
one time the roof was shoveled, not one time there was any repairs.
No.
There
No.
was no, contract and rentals would have also been like inspection for fire alarms and that kind of stuff.
No, fire alarms internal shoveling was done by the public works.
So that should be charged to theater, right?
Mm.
If we're talking about like making sure that your time on other departments is, that should be charged to the theater.
No, we just do everything.
I know, but this is like,
Probably
well, then
something.
we shouldn't be worrying about work that you're doing for any other department.
Yeah.
Right, either
If we're gonna do it for
No.
one, we should do it for all.
Yeah,
of them.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I just think at that point.
Nobody told me that public works shoveled the roof.
To do it, so we had to get those.
Right, I'm just saying like
Why would
going
I-
forward, like.
Why would
if we're
any of
gonna
us have
be
thought that?
Particular about different departments paying
They should.
public works as a revenue line to show those costs, then let's
Yeah.
do it for all of them. And make sure that the public works time is set where it needs to be.
Definitely should be. It's 100%.
okay, so that was pretty straightforward.
I don't think any of us knew that they actually shoveled that roof.
No,
I thought we
I had
had
no.
fun.
I thought we always contracted it out to,
And just like you keep your insurance, because I go in there every day to do inspection.
well,
Thank you.
we appreciate it.
Yeah, that's one of the
That's
things.
why it was kept, because.
Well, it's- you're gonna make sure that.
Yeah.
Broke in or whatever, so.
Cemetery.
All right, are we good?
Facilities.
We good on theater?
Yeah.
We good on theater?
Yeah.
Okay, we're moving on from theater. That's officially done. Nice. We are going to cemetery 24, page 24.
And I know what time I get out of you.
Mhm.
You can take $18,000 off contractual and your actual cost for the total budget's $58,650.
Perfect.
Where, what?
I was.
Page 25, got
Okay,
18,000.
take all
yeah.
18,000.
Yeah, 18,000.
For actual.
Oh, because that was for the moment.
Okay.
Yep.
Do that. Yeah.
And And the 30, and the 35 for the 6-month budget.
And a 35.
Now, I think that's gonna, yeah,
Well,
well,
he's gonna have a little bit.
that gets,
Well, you can't take it out of the budget.
no, well, no, but it, you know what I mean, it's,
We won't spend it.
should go like,
For cemetery.
We'll end up
just
going,
stay in the- Now, is that,
Surplus. Those
those
are for the
funds,
salt.
oh, those funds probably go back into cemetery.
do they go
but,
back into cemetery, Jack, or do they go,
They should,
it's only an expense that's pulled from the cemetery? If
Right.
tax dollars are raised as part of the budgeting process, it's only allocated when there's an expense, right? This 35,000 will go into the general fund.
Yeah, whatever's not
It's on the
spent,
fence.
we'll go to fund balance.
It does not go back into the cemetery because it was never pulled from cemetery.
So the only way that money would stay with cemetery, earmarked for cemetery, is if you passed a resolution to say, take X number of dollars from the 2025 budget and reserve it for X. If you did that resolution, then we would track it, we'd carry it. If we didn't speak to it at all, and there was $35,000 at the end of the year, it would just lapse into fund balance.
Which would be the same as us saying, at the time we set the budget and what's gonna be paid from taxation, we just say. An extra $35,000 from the general fund would be used to offset the 2025-6.
We really don't know. We don't know what our,
I'm just, in theory,
In
if we
theory.
raised tax dollars for it, and then they weren't spent in that tax period, and we start a new budget period, whatever's left over from the budget that wasn't expended goes into the general fund.
Yep.
And if we're setting our new budget for 25 and 26, we have the ability to say, this is our, say it's $500,000 full budget, we're gonna take $200,000 from our general fund to offset the amount of taxes that need to be raised. So if we add up all the bits and pieces that are left over from the 2025 budget that's going into the general fund, we can just use that to lower the 25-26 taxation.
But the
There's
problem.
a lot
is
of
just
audit stuff that,
I
like,
was gonna say, plus,
Yeah,
just like you did year end, you're not gonna get that for 2 months.
when,
yeah,
when we're looking at what we're gonna use from fund balance for the next tax commitment, it's more probably backward looking to say, okay, what was our fund balance a year ago? And then what are we comfortable with? And then all this that's dumping in on, as of June 30th, July 1st, a year from now, it'll be backward looking again and say, okay, now, based on everything that we've added to it, what can we take next year? But yeah, you wanna just make sure that we're always in touch with using the fund balance so that we can sustain it to the level we want.
Right.
Yeah.
And
we are
we
this
know
year, you're no.
this
isn't that right?
$35,000 is not gonna be expended. And we're not gonna have any expenses going to it, then we know that that's going into the general fund.
Yeah,
So that's my point, like, there's certain things that we've crossed off
Yeah.
out of this budget that we know is not gonna be spent.
Right.
But
And
we-
so,
but
But
we
it's
don't
building up.
know, we don't know if another department overspent.
yeah, true.
And if it
the-
overspends, then this would.
Get the
Why,
full-
why can't we build that out?
You'd have to
If that's already been committed, why can't we build those hours out somehow? You're telling me we can't build those out?
build up the what, like the offset, the cemetery, sexton stuff,
contract rentals,
right, for the
Why can't-
sexton hours and all
Why
that.
can't? It's already been committed, is that no way to?
I don't know what.
Well, some of that's gonna get spent because he's gonna be working in this 6-month budget. So some of that 35 will be spent. Sexton's working now,
Okay,
that's
And those
not-
guys will
that's
be mowing.
contractual.
but so that's gonna go in the.
it's gonna get transferred from there to
Well,
labor.
That's what I was asking, can we transfer the hours?
I think so, right?
I mean, the way the budget's set up right now is. Theoretically, nothing would be spent out of that, 35. But then, when we're doing payroll and we have that person under the cemetery payroll. What may not have been budgeted for at all, would have an expense to it, so it
Yeah.
would offset some of the 35.
Well, your part-time
Yeah,
numbers gonna be way over $4,800.
right.
Well, that's what yeah.
So
And it's gonna have
that's
to get
the
offset,
trade-off. It's-
yeah.
We'll save the net between what part-time is and what we don't.
Yeah, which will be a fair
Okay, so
amount, but.
Right, so it'll just be the net going to the fund balance then,
Correct.
Yeah.
because it's done by. Okay,
The net will go to fund.
by department,
Yep.
it's done by department and that goes one, okay, gotcha.
So if the cemetery sexton, when do they start their 20 hours, the 1st of May?
They're, he's got, what,
The
the
sexton?
mowing and the sexton is already started.
The 20 hours a week for the sexton has already started.
He's working for me.
No, when does he actually, we're talking cemetery, when does he start in
He's been
cemetery hours?
started, because I've been doing it for the last 4.5 to 5 months.
For the cemetery work?
I've been being a sexton, taking all the calls and dealing with all
Okay.
the spring burials, so that's why he needed this.
So it's 20
Should
hours,
be April 1st, October 1st.
it says 26 weeks, so we're already started.
It starts at the end of April and
No.
goes to.
This is part of the 2025 6-month budget we're talking about. That's the $4,800.
So you'll be billing his time against the cemetery starting the end of April. Theoretically, that's what it should be,
Theoretically.
through the middle of October. But for our budgeting purposes, it'd be from middle of April through the end of June.
Right.
That's what I'm
So it's
trying
2.5 months.
to- how many each he's-
You're right.
Either way, we got There's more money in there.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Oh,
So. That's it, oh.
cemetery,
650. So the new number at the bottom, 58,650.
Are there, so contracts and rentals,
yeah, that goes to zero.
does it, if you wanted to change things about how you're utilizing excavators? Wouldn't you need a contract or a rental item in there to the public works or to a private person?
I've got Jim working
Business?
on 2 contractors to get a price of what it would cost if we had a private contractor do it versus us doing it too. So I already told that, he's already been on that for a week, so I should be getting some numbers.
So that doesn't get zeroed out then. One way or another, there should be a cost there, either they're gonna pay public works to do it with the excavator or whatever equipment you have. And actually have that cost be
Yeah.
there,
Yeah,
like we
can't have
talked
that.
about earlier.
Yeah.
Or we
Yeah.
have a contractor come in and do it, so it shouldn't be zeroed out,
That's right.
No, that's not true,
no.
because we need to know what the cost is gonna be either way, because whoever's getting buried is gonna pay that.
Yes, I'm just saying, Jason had said, oh, zero out the contracts and rentals, cause it was the mowing contract. You said take the 18,000 out, but any contract or rental would also be the equipment rental for the burials, and so that cost
We don't,
would need
we're
to be
not,
in there.
we're not gonna budget that, because we're gonna figure that out, the fees based on the burials, but it's gonna cost $500 to dig the hole, and we're not gonna pay for that, that's gonna be whoever's responsible for burial.
Doesn't it
Right,
still have to
but
go
the
every-
income will go to public works.
If we do it,
So still will have.
or like over the contract.
Right.
There needs to be a number, even though somebody's
Yeah.
paying the fee eventually, there still needs
Yeah.
to be a number as an expense, because the town's gonna take money in and the town's gonna have money go out in
Yeah.
one way or another, so it still needs to be in the budget, even though there's a net zero cost to the town, if you're assessing that
Yeah.
cost to the person that, or family that's having the burial.
It's just like you charging,
So if it's $500, I know on the weekends, $500, I think it's $400 during the week, so I don't know, there could be 50 burials this year at $500, that's.
I mean, we can look at a 5-year average of what the burial, kind of put that number.
Yeah, so I just don't, I don't have a definitive number.
No, we can look at a 5-year average of how many burials we do a year. Times 500,
That's
put
fine.
that number in the contractual,
right,
but then it goes into a revenue line
Yes,
for him, offsetting revenue. line.
assuming, or
Or
it goes into contractual,
Right,
as somebody else doing it.
A contractor can come in, like I asked them to talk to Brendan, have to do other ones, and they can do it for $250. Whatever, I mean, I just wanna get an idea, I'm sure it's gonna be more than that.
Alright, so that 2505
Yeah,
in
question mark.
cemetery will be a question mark for now.
Mhm.
Depending on how you guys handle the digging of
so it'd be outside or public works.
Burials,
Right.
yeah. contracted or public. Alright. Guessing the sexton has a cell phone, probably
Yes.
12,000 a year.
6,500. I mean,
He's got a super plan.
Carrying a Starlink in the back of his truck, is he?
everybody good on
Starlink.
cemetery?
Yeah.
Page 18, streetlights, which I believe.
Yeah.
you're going,
You're gonna be back in a few hours, Steve.
Yeah, well, I just got a call from someone that.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Anything on, streetlights from anybody?
No.
Just glad to see we're getting a little savings. It's working.
Glad to see we're saving money finally.
It's
Yeah,
the
it's
LED conversion, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, they had begged the previous town manager for years to do that, and
Yeah, so that's great.
we finally did it. So
so
that
this is from our streetlight change out.
Yeah, these.
That was a no-brainer, really.
yeah, it really was. Cost us a lot of money for a long time.
Are all of our streetlights on now? I know for a while we had a problem with like being rotationally out in town, and the police department was doing like a daily.
The LED
daily
changed,
report and Stuff.
that changed when the LED changed.
Yeah, I haven't heard any complaints.
Nobody's calling.
That's why CMP was gonna drop us
I would expect to get calls if the streetlights are out and.
You hear.
Yeah, they're not LED.
Well, thank you guys, Jack, thank you. Drive very safely, it sounds like it's getting slippery.
Yeah.
It's
It's
short,
Slow and steady.
so we're.
Thank you, Ernie.